What's up, Chicago? How you doing? We're here to talk some Bears, talk some Chicago sports with everybody. Sorry we're a little late, had some technical issues, but we're ready to go now. I got Brandon Duplessis with me. What up, Brandon?
What's going on, Dustin? How you feel?
I'm feeling pretty good. Hoping there's no more issues and we can have a great show tonight. How about you, Darius?
All is well, Dustin. Brandon, how you fellas doing tonight?
Good, Darius. How about you?
Uh,
I
you
like
know,
that.
yeah,
I like that cap, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
yeah. I mean, he's got the cap and the beard. Darius Lockhart is
Yeah.
he's the beard of Chicago sports podcast for sure.
Fresh and clean, man.
So
Yeah, man.
we already got Ant Mass and Cliff talking about this Bakhtiari thing. They're so eager they can't wait to get in on this conversation. So I mean, I guess we'll start with that, guys. Unless we have any other any other interesting news from the day. How you feeling? We're all feeling good. We're ready to get going. David Bakhtiari. There's some reports out that he is the betting favorite to get signed with the Chicago Bears. The Bears are the odds-on betting favorite to sign David Bakhtiari. Um, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but that's what we're here to discuss. He had a torn ACL in December of 2020, right after he signed a huge contract. He's played 13 games over the last 3 seasons. He only took 55 snaps in 2023. So I guess just on a general broad scape here, Darius, what do you think of just these rumors floating around in the Bears? According to DraftKings being favorites to land David Bakhtiari.
I mean, rumors are just rumors. You know what I mean? It's thought provoking, if nothing else. As far as what I think about the thought of signing him, I'll say. I mean, it just depends on his mindset. If he wants to come in here and be a starter and all of that, I'll say no. Now, if he wants to come in and be a teacher, to help Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright out, if he wants to come in and be that vet, then I may consider it. But his injury rap sheet is too long for me, man, and I'll pass.
Well, you say rumors are rumors, and that's true. But the odds,
Yeah,
DraftKings having those odds set means that there's some kind of fire to that smoke. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like
it's some
that
half truth in there.
yeah, for sure.
I I
As
definitely
Bears
agree
keep
with that,
saying,
but
as Bears keep saying
um,
here, he's like anytime a lineman comes available, that rumors
anytime,
seem to run wild, right?
right?
Which he says, which tells me, although no one wants to admit it, everyone knows the O line needs more. We do
Yeah.
know that, like I said, like you're saying with David Bakhtiari, the injury history is extensive and very recent.
Yeah, and I think we already have a guy with a patchy injury history on that other side, man. With Tevin, like he's younger. Tevin's a lot younger, but it's the same thing for him. We don't need two guys on the line with that injury bug issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, like you're saying, we got Braxton Jones, just drafted Kieran Amagaji,
Hmm.
just signed Matt Pryor. There is
Right.
some decent depth there. Now it's not. Now are we confident in Braxton Jones becomes the question. And like you said, David Bakhtiari said, "I'm not a reliever guy. I'm your cornerstone guy." Like that's
Right.
his quote, Brandon. So does it even make sense for the Bears, given the moves they've already made, to reach out and sign a David Bakhtiari?
It would have to come real cheap. Honestly, that's what I think. Because I mean, I think it was after week one last season that he said the knee was starting to flare up again. So I mean, if you sign this guy and he comes in for 1 or 2 games and he's hung up for the rest of the year, you better pray you didn't spend a whole lot of money on it. And yeah, I don't like because this was according to Bet Online. It was written by Beth Mishler Elmore. I don't like the speculation. I'd rather hear the Bears say something about it than just the betting odds for where he might end up. Um, but I don't know. Is a 50% David Bakhtiari better than Braxton Jones? Probably not. Honestly, I don't think the line tremendously improves if you sign Bakhtiari. I really
Well, I don't
don't.
think you're signing them at 50% though, right? Like I think if you're signing them, he's expecting that he says he still has some hurdles to get over, right, in terms of his recovery, right? But we're talking middle of training camp, beginning of September. I mean, he's trying to get on a roster, and he's saying he wants to play September through February.
Well,
So
when we had the Connor Williams discussion, we talked about Darius said it. The word that I look for most, improvement. Do I think that Bakhtiari's in like? If you could tell me that guy was going to be healthy all year, I'm all for it, man. He's like you just said, he played 55 snaps in what 3 seasons. I just don't see it happening.
55 snaps in 2023, 13 games over 3 seasons. Yeah.
And
now
then,
here's the question: if he is, say he's 100% healthy, let's just put that hypothetical out there. Would you rather have him be your starter over Braxton Jones? Anyone? That's up for
I think it
anyone.
depends.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it depends upon the cost. Because I mean, you're how much do you want in? We're talked about Connor Williams already. We're talking about Connor Williams now. We're talking about Buck. How much are the Bears going to invest in maybes? Is my concern when they kind of preach this whole offseason that they have an offensive line they feel is serviceable, middle of the pack, can get the job done. Now you're talking about signing two guys that are literally still there because of their injuries, right? And then Joseph Grisano writes an article yesterday that has Braxton Jones as the breakout candidate of the year. So I don't know if there's something the Bears are seeing in camp that we don't know about yet. I don't know. It would be a really hard sell for me, man. He would have to come in at a very low, because I mean the guy signed a $92 million contract that the Packers pretty much just swallowed. So I mean, like the guy's got to come in at a really low cost. I'm not against him. He did actually he allowed no pressures in the games. I think one full game he played in 2023.
That is
But
true.
yeah, it was against the Bears too. But
So Darius,
this is.
go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
no,
But
you're good.
this is something that people are not talking about. We've gotten better at the QB position, and therefore, he can kind of, make the line look better than it actually is. You know what I mean? Decision making in the process.
Yeah.
Caleb.
Getting rid of the ball, scrambling a little bit.
And
for sure.
it's just a lot. Like, we have to give this, like, bringing him in at 100%. Okay, how long will you be 100%? It's only a matter of time that something's going to happen. The last 4 years are not a lot. You know what I mean? So,
well, yeah. I mean, and here we're talking a contract that was huge. I believe it was like a 4-year, $92 million deal he signed right before he got injured. And Cliff Victoria points this out right here. If you look at his numbers, he was in the 90th percentile. He was if he might have been considered the best left tackle in football at one point, right? And he was playing really well until the injuries happened. He was a cap casualty for them because they owed him a lot of money and they were uncertain, So he's definitely not going to be that expensive for the Bears. My only thing is my confidence in Braxton Jones is not as high as some others, to be honest.
and that's
understandable. I like Braxton. I hope that he can make that jump that you're talking about, that article pointed out, Brandon, where he could be the breakout player on this offensive line. But I do have concerns. And I think if there's an opportunity to, alleviate some of those concerns, the Bears should look into it. They have to do their due diligence, right?
I guess. Yeah. But, I mean, we talk about Bakhtiari. I'm sorry, I butchered his name, but let's not forget who his quarterback was. You know what I mean? Let's not forget who his quarterback was. And here we go. We got Braxton Jones. This is year 3, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
This is still a young guy, and he still has time to develop. And I think Caleb can help him get to that next level. You know what I mean?
And that point, I've made that point before, that a quarterback like Caleb could potentially and should ideally make your offensive line look better. But at the same time, you don't want to take any chances with that rookie quarterback either. You want to put the best 5 guys in front of him you possibly can. And I think not attempting to do that is just malpractice, because like you can't just count on Caleb to take that offensive line to the next level. You also have to have that offensive line take themselves to that next level.
No doubt about it.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
No doubt about it. I just think, with the string of being unavailable for Bakhtiari, I just don't think it's a good signing. I don't think the Bears should go in there. And then his mindset coming in, he wants to be the guy. He wants to be one of the guys. And all these musical chairs playing, playing with the offensive line, moving tackles to guards and all that. Let's leave that with Matt Nagy now, man. We don't need to keep doing that.
Well, that brings up a good point. And then real quick, Brandon, just before we move on, because Bearski Film did make a good point about the offensive line needing that consistency. And I just kind of want to pull that back up here. O-line benefits a lot from consistency. What we need more than anything is our group of guys to just stay healthy. And yeah, that's like the hugest thing. And I've been preaching that for months now. Just that continuity of 4 out of 5 guys from last year coming into this year, hopefully healthy and staying healthy. And how much better that can make everybody, just that familiarity and that camaraderie that offensive line has. I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in those repetitions together making a group better, because if any position on the field depends on a group more than anyone, it's the O-line working together, right, Brandon?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we all saw how good Darnell Wright and Tevin Jenkins worked together, but Darnell Wright's going to hold it down on his own. We know that. So after they moved Tevin Jenkins back to left alongside Braxton Jones did play better. And then we come to find out the guy needed like a neck surgery or something by the time the season ended too. So I think he was nursing something a little bit as well. I think Braxton Jones is going to be a pivotal piece in their run offense. I do admit that he's, not the guy you give $100 million to if you're protecting a quarterback like that. He still needs to make great strides in pass protection. But like you said, Dustin, continuity, repetition. I mean, like that guy was down to the linebackers within seconds when they're on run plays. So I think he's got hustle. He obviously tries. He's not like I don't have concerns like I do with Nate Davis and even Bakhtiari, to be honest. Like the guy's rehabbing a torn knee and he's at every Brewers and Bucks game chugging beers. Like it's like how many times did we see that on ESPN, the beer chug by Bakhtiari? But Jones is a guy who works hard for sure. So if there's a player who I believe can improve, it's a guy with a work ethic like him, because Olin Kreutz has also had a lot of good things to say about how Braxton Jones treats an off season. So maybe he'll come in a little bit stronger. But you're right, Dustin. Continuity between the 5. You just need the same 5 players there, right?
So yeah, that's what concerns me about when we start talking about adding guys late in the process to this team, and and like you said, Brandon, how much money are they going to cost? And Darius, like you said, how healthy are they? Because if they're available right now, there are negatives that are going to come with their positives. Like otherwise, they would not be available right now. So how much do we mess with the chemistry of that offensive line to add someone who wants to start? Like you said, Darius, like he said that flat out. I want to be a starter. I'm your cornerstone guy. I mean, we're not. I mean, if we're not benching Braxton Jones, and we already drafted Kieran Amagaji, and we signed Matt Pryor, like I mentioned already, and some people in the chat have been mentioning, then how much sense does it even make, Darius, to seriously pursue a guy like Bakhtiari?
Yeah, we are all young enough and old enough to remember when Josh Sinton came here. He didn't look the same as he looked in Green Bay. He was decent here, but he just didn't look the same. And a lot of that had to do with the fact of the guys that we had playing quarterback, So
okay,
I just, no more former Packers, man. Listen.
Well, honestly, man, I no more, 3 and 14 years. If we can be 10-7, I'll take an ex-Packer who can help us get there. I don't really give a shit, to be honest. Let's be real. So I mean, I'm not sure. The one thing that we haven't touched on here in regards to Bakhtiari, and we got Cliff here echoing what you were saying, Darius. Ex-Packers haven't helped the Bears either. Packers are like Pitt, don't trade with them or pick up their rejects. Jeremy Munoz is touching on something that I wanted to touch on here. We don't need guys turning 33. Now, Poles has been very hesitant. I mean, he really hasn't done it. He has not signed guys in their 30s, and definitely not with injury history. That's one thing we got to keep in mind when we're discussing this, right? Bakhtiari is both. He's turning 33 in September. He's got the litany of injury issues that he's bringing along with him. So how likely is it, do you think, that Brandon, that Poles would even want to sign a guy like Bakhtiari?
Yeah, it wouldn't reflect his trend in history, right? I don't. He doesn't like, unless they're really young players, he doesn't mess with projects too much. Like the Connor Williams thing came up, now the Bakhtiari thing, but it's just not in Pole's history. He really likes, when you sign in veterans, he's looking for a bargain. And that's why I think Bakhtiari would have to come in at a really good price, because he's not going to pay him. We know that, guys. Ryan Poles is not going to throw a big contract at this guy. There's just no way. And then you have the betting odds, and you have teams like the Ravens and Cowboys behind. Jerry Jones will give this guy money if he wants it. That's where my money would be if I was to like, literally gamble on where Bakhtiari ends up. But like I said, Dustin, I agree with you. We're talking about betting odds. Until I hear something from Bears camp, till something's leaked to a reporter who's inside that locker room knows something, it's really just speculation.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. But that's what
Yeah.
we're here to do. We're here to speculate. So
Don't get me wrong. He can add a lot of experience to those young guys. But again, he's already talking about wanting to be a cornerstone and stuff like that. And that's the wrong mindset. It's not going to mesh well here.
not given, I think, the moves that have already been made and the things that we already have in place in terms of, like we just discussed, the continuity, the guys that we have a good group that we're putting in front of Caleb, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are more confident in this O-line going into this year than we have been in a long time. Am I right in thinking that? A lot of people I'm talking to are feeling that way.
I know I am. I mean, I'm a lot confident, strictly because we improved at the QB position. That's what gives me confidence. I mean, because those guys did hold their blocks pretty good, most of the time for Justin, But I just think we got better at the QB position. And not saying it's gonna make the O-line elite, but it will be a lot better.
Now, I will,
along with the running game as well.
No doubt. And I will say this. I mean, I'm not opposed to a Bakhtiari signing if he's healthy. If he's healthy, and like you said, Brandon, we can get him on a good 1 year kind of cheapo deal, prove it deal, then he can prove that he's gonna get back to that level he was at. And I mean, if he is, I mean, we could honestly throw him in front of Braxton Jones as far as I'm concerned. If he's playing at the level that he's played in the past years, that's better than what Braxton Jones has been up to this point in my mind. I just think the Bears are in a unique position with a rookie quarterback to really accelerate his timeline potentially and put some good pieces around him. And I'm not opposed to bringing in anyone, a Connor Williams, a Bakhtiari. If the deal makes sense and those guys are healthy, they're going to improve what we currently have, I think.
Yeah. I would just rather spend that money on the other side of the ball.
Well, we're getting some chatter about that too. Trax is asking, what about the defensive end? I mean, why are we still talking about signing a defensive end? I mean, because we're not confident in the guys opposite of Montez Sweat, right?
Well, so actually, because we drafted a young guy in a late round,
a project guy.
Round, yeah. You know me, like I said, in the shows in the past, I wouldn't mind bringing back Ngakoue, for a 1 year deal. At the right price.
It's looking like that's their only option, Brandon. I mean, we got Ogba out there, you got Carl Lawson out there, but I mean, Ngakoue is at least familiar with the system and maybe, in a lesser role. I mean, I've had some people tell me they think he would do a lot better, in limited snaps. Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, you could bring back Yannick. I mean, to be honest, I didn't love him even when he was healthy. I do know that Walker's production substantially fell off when Yannick was injured because Walker was asked to be an every down player and he's just not that. They even had to move Dexter outside a little bit, which not something you want to do if you really want him to be your 3 tech. So I think if they believe Dominique Robinson has any potential at all, I don't see the point in signing a guy like Yannick. I would imagine those 2 players are probably able to acquire the same amount of pass rush, to be honest. Yannick did not impress me. I know he's had 9 sacks in like 10 of his seasons or something, but
4 sacks last year, yeah.
where we signed him the year that really just didn't come to fruition, man. He
Mhm.
didn't look good. He didn't look like a presence. Like what really killed him too is he got injured right around the time that Sweat was signed, so he didn't get to play really too much across from him. But
Right.
they're gonna have to. I mean, this team's in trouble. Even if they do sign Yannick, their pass rush is in trouble. They're gonna have to find pass rush on the interior line as well as at the end. But to be honest with you guys, I would rather give Booker chance after chance after chance to see him progress than let Yannick waste downs out there. I really
Well,
would.
hold on though,
Ooh.
because I tend to agree with you, but I don't think his body size is ready for the NFL yet. I think he's a project in that regard. And you remember last week we had John John Draft on, and he John Draft Vogel, and he was saying that he looks at him as more of a stand-up player that you bring in a specialist role, to get after the quarterback. And now I don't know if I agree with that, or I mean, he can put some muscle on and build himself up to put his hand in the dirt. I think that's what the Bears drafted him for. I don't think they drafted him to be a specialist, but I can see why someone would think that right now with his body size and a need to get better with his technique with his hand in the dirt. So, I mean, you could say that, but at the same time, we're talking
What?
about a team we want to get into the playoffs. I would feel better with a little bit more support than just throwing Booker out there as much
Well,
as much as possible.
I think even if Booker plays standing up, which I have no problem with, I think you're still looking at a four-man front. I don't think you're going to see Booker on one side of Sweat, on the other side of Walker. I really don't. I think even if he's in there, he's still going to be your end. He might not play well from the dirt. You're right. He's a smaller guy. It's going to be tougher for him to push through. He's going to have to use speed and technique to get around guys. So if he's got to stand up to do that, to get a step ahead of somebody, I have no problem with that. But I really don't see them. I don't see a whole lot of five-man rush coming out of this. I mean, I know he blitzed that hell out of the end of the season.
Mhm.
Eberflus did. I don't know if he's going to take that same approach this year.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing for Ngakwe is that he got hurt right before the Bears found a rhythm. I think one of you, I think either, I think you said that, Dustin. He got hurt right before the Bears found a rhythm, and like
Well, he
interceptions,
got 2 sacks on the other side of Sweat. 2 of his 4 sacks were with Sweat on the opposite side.
right?
So yeah, he was
Yeah,
there for part of it. Yeah.
yeah. With sacks and interceptions, I believe they come in like bundles. You know what I mean? Like once the rhythm starts going and the sacks start coming, they don't slow down. They keep coming.
Snowball effect.
Right. So with Yannick, I think he'll be an added addition. I think he can help Booker out tremendously. Because they both have explosion off the football. Yannick can teach him, the veteran moves, veteran techniques to get off the ball a lot faster or get off of blocks. Um, my only knock against Ngakwe is, he struggles in the run game. But, as far as getting to
Well,
the
here, guys,
passer.
the chat is blowing up. I'm sorry.
Mm.
I'm trying to keep up with everything going on in the chat. We got Trax in here. He's our punky left tackle, and he's still on. He's very passionate about this David Bakhtiari thing. He's campaigning for him, and we're not just trying to jump off of Bakhtiari altogether,
No.
but at the same time, I feel like there's only so much we can talk about him. I I,
Yeah.
I think what Trax wants is, and he's stating it here, next time I'll create a show and we can complain why we aren't addressing our offensive line. This is the one that I wanted to highlight, though. Protect your investment. Caleb is our future. Do we want to repeat history like they did with Fields? So, I mean, like, he's really stuck on that. Why would we not do everything possible to get the most in front of our rookie quarterback? Kind of what we were discussing earlier, Darius, where
Mm.
it's like, Caleb is gonna make it easier on that O line.
Right.
Why would we not make it as easy on Caleb as possible?
But at the end of the day, only 5 guys can play.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, only 5 guys can play.
Yeah, I agree
We
with that, and I
we
feel like we got a solid 5 in place right now.
yeah. I mean, and you have to let the young guys grow. I mean, and sometimes everybody can't be an instant hit. You know what I mean? They have late bloomers. They have guys that come out after their third year and really turn it up. You know, this is to compare our line under Caleb saying we don't want to do the same thing as Justin Fields. This is a totally different thing here. Like Caleb is a totally different quarterback than Justin, and he's going to get rid of football. So now we won't create the same thing with Fields.
For
You know,
sure.
Fields was holding the ball, trying to make plays, and all that, standing back there, moving
They didn't
around.
put the amount of weapons around Fields either that Caleb has. I did
Yeah,
not feel as good about those offensive lines as I do about this one. So that could be the difference, Trax, in your frustration with us not necessarily jumping right on that Bakhtiari thing, because I have a good amount of confidence in this offensive line, and that's not normal for me. Usually
and,
going into these Bear seasons, I'm really scared. I feel better about this O line than I have about one that we put out there in a few years right now.
and
Well,
correct me if I'm wrong.
let me say this to the Bakhtiari subject. So
Mhm.
he played 55 snaps last year. He was injured pretty early. The Packers plugged in a player who didn't have the experience that Braxton Jones has had, and Jordan Love did just fine, and the
Right.
team did just fine. And they went out and drafted a tackle this year because they probably feel they need some insurance at that position. But he is also, I forget the name of the tackle who filled in for Bakhtiari. He's also now on that article about Braxton Jones was the 5 most potential breakout candidates at the tackle position in the NFL.
Okay.
Braxton Jones was one of them. The guy who filled in for Bakhtiari on that Packers line was also on the list. So it's like when Bakhtiari went out, the Packers line didn't really miss a beat. I think they improved as the season went on. So it's I don't even know if when the guy was on the field, if he was this cornerstone or whatever he called himself, because the Packers didn't really seem to miss him too much. I mean, obviously willing to part ways. They saved a lot of money, so we know why they did it. But I think if the Bears, if Braxton Jones can be as good as was the player, I think the player was a rookie, correct? That played last year in place of Bakhtiari, right?
Right.
I think a late draft pick rookie. So I,
Walker?
like I said, I think it was it's
Yeah.
a pretty common name, yeah. But
Randy Walker.
I have no problem with signing Bakhtiari, and I'll say this to Trax, like I really don't, but it's got to be at a good cost, man. It's got to be at a good price because,
James
like
Turner
Justin
was
said, like Darius has said, you're throwing a wrench because I just read just now they would expect him to come in the middle of preseason, right? So you're working with 5 guys consistently over the offseason. You've got these guys for half the preseason, then you're throwing the wrench in. Does it benefit you? I don't know. Even if he's healthy, does it make your team better? 2 weeks before the season starts, that you're throwing somebody new.
I mean, it makes your team better in terms of depth. And that's what Beresky is saying here. Bakhtiari would be a much better depth addition, but he doesn't feel that that's what he is. Does he accept that role based on the things he's saying? That might just make him not a fit with the Bears just because of the mentality he's going to come into it with. And then he points out the McGlinchey signing for the Broncos, $90 million. Was that worth it? That's a little different, but McGlinchey a little younger and a little less injury history, but no, that was I don't know how good they feel about that at this point. Niners made a smart move not re-signing him.
But
Um,
what he said earlier was to my point. Like he doesn't have the proper attitude to come here for and be what we need him to be. You know, we know he's not going back to being what he was 5 or 6 years ago. It's not happening.
the odds of that are very low,
Right.
that's for sure.
And let me give y'all something to think about. Lamar Jackson just won an MVP with Sam Mustipher as one of his O linemen. Okay. And we all remember what Sam Mustipher was here with the Bears. So, I
Oh,
mean,
Sam Mustipher ain't much better than what he was with the Bears.
this is what I'm
That's
saying.
your
Like,
point, though. Is that Lamar
we,
Jackson's a bit of a different player though than Caleb. I can't let you just make that because Lamar Jackson is a speedster, is a runner. I mean, it's. I feel like that's a little different,
but
but
he's a better quarterback than what we
that's
had. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying.
yeah,
You
and
know,
he's a better athlete. He's going to avoid the pressure. He's very good at backpedaling away from the pressure and running away from the pressure. But I mean, it's I don't know. I don't want to talk Sam Mustipher, man.
So let me ask you guys this. We've hammered away at the whole Caleb Williams over the course of the last few months. Caleb Williams will make this offensive line better. Braxton Jones was already, I mean, not terrible, right? He was a serviceable
right.
player.
He's
So
gotten better. He got
does
better
he
last year from the year before. Yeah.
does he help Braxton Jones take the step that he needs to be that pass protection guy? Because he's a phenomenal run blocker, Braxton. Does he give him that last tool that he requires to be a guy who, and he's still not probably going to be, he's never going to be that guy, right? He's not
He's
going to
not
be
going
that
to give any offensive lineman those tools. That's for the offensive line coach and the offensive lineman.
Well,
Now
well,
he can make them look a little better just
he
by
helped him
getting rid
improve.
of the ball or evading more pressure. He can make his stats look better, but we'll still see it in the game. If Braxton Jones ain't setting his ass down and getting in front of these edge rushers, then and they're getting around him, and that pressure is still getting to Caleb, but he's getting rid of the ball. That's still a negative play for our offense, So.
Well, yeah, and then there's another
Well.
question we've never even asked. Does Braxton Jones give enough time to a guy like Caleb versus Justin Fields, who required so much damn time to get rid of the ball, right? If
Right.
you can knock 1 second off protection, is that good enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, long as Caleb gets the ball out and completes it, for positive yards, hey, that's a plus. We can't. It's just like a DB in coverage. He's covering the wide receiver. He didn't make no break on the ball. He didn't make no threat, but the wide receiver dropped the football. It's an incompletion. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that DB that doesn't mean that DB should get an extension.
No, no, it
It doesn't
doesn't
mean that
mean.
he should start the next game.
It doesn't mean. It doesn't mean
It's
he
just
gets
a
an extension.
disguise for he made a bad play. That play got behind him,
Right.
right?
Well, but do we think that Montez Sweat maybe helped Jalen Johnson get an extension?
I think Jalen was going to get it regardless. Jalen was shutting people down before Montez Sweat got here. He might not have had all the interception numbers that he started picking up towards the end of the year, but he was still shutting guys down. Balls weren't getting past him. So I think that they both helped each other, but obviously pressure on the quarterback makes the DB's job easier. We can dive into all of that. I'm just saying that the offensive line still needs to be good in front of our rookie quarterback.
And I think they will.
I don't want our rookie quarterback to have to be relied on to disguise the offensive line's weaknesses.
I think the offensive line has some weaknesses. There's no doubt about that. And if like I said, if Bakhtiari is going to come in at a good price, so be it. Sign the guy, give him a chance. But I'm going to stand on this with Bakhtiari. I'm going to stand firm on this, guys. This offensive line is going to get overwhelmed against good units. They're going to, because their interior is the worst part about them. It was last year. Braxton Jones wasn't even my concern last year.
Right.
That's how bad the interior was. The Braxton really wasn't that bad compared to those guys. So that's my biggest concern, even with Bakhtiari, is have you done enough on the interior line to even give a good tackle a chance? Really? I don't know. I don't like this interior offensive line. I really don't. You have Tevin Jenkins, who's a stud, but might possibly get injured. And if he does, you're right back to square one. You really are. You got a center who played five games at that position last year. He was a guard most of his career and a good one. Then you've got a guy who allowed the most pressures in the NFL. I don't think that they've made major improvements on the interior line. So even if Bakhtiari comes in, he plays 100%, he plays the entire season, this line is still going to get beat up by good units. They really are.
Okay, so then doesn't that make sense though to try to add as much depth as you can?
I would add depth if I'm going to pay somebody. If Ryan Poles is thinking we can add
Connor
somebody
Williams,
to improve this line, that's who I'm signing. I'm signing. When I saw the thing about Connor Williams as a fan, I was excited. I was excited to read that. When I saw the thing about Bakhtiari, I was like, all right. You know what I mean? It feels like, and he's kind of like the last man standing. Like he's the last guy to get picked, right? I mean,
there's still Donovan Smith is still out there. Charles Leno is still out there. DJ Humphries. But again, it's just like, do the Bears want to spend that money on a tackle when, as chatters are pointing out, our third round pick here, thank you, Bear Truth. Kieran Amagaji is a guy that they drafted who could be that left tackle of the future and step in if needed in this season. Obviously, that's not ideal, but you also signed Matt Pryor, as I mentioned before. So it's just like, how much assets do the Bears want to put into that tackle position? And then you throw in the fact that we've already mentioned that Poles does not want to sign guys like this. Like he's just shown that as part of his reputation. Like he doesn't go after.
I'm sure his biggest concern with Braxton at this current juncture is the surgery received this offseason. So you've got Tevin, you've got Braxton, who had an injury last year. He nursed, he played through it, didn't play phenomenally towards the end of the year. He really fell off, actually. You're talking about Connor Williams, you're talking about Bakhtiari. You're talking about if you all four of these guys, if you let's say you sign both Connor and Bakhtiari, you could still in the middle of this year not have any of those guys. So it's becoming health is becoming a major concern for these guys too.
Yeah. And
Becoming.
I see tracks that
Injuries with
Connor,
Connor Williams. Yeah.
but Bakhtiari has had injuries for the last
The same
4
injury.
years. Man. The
They
last
suffered.
4
I thought
years.
they suffered the same injury. I thought.
Yeah, but it's the last 4 years of Bakhtiari, man. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
Bakhtiari has played 13 games since 2020. So it's
Right.
it's a little different, but that also could mean he's rested. He's very well rested. But I mean, Connor Williams, there's again, like I said at the beginning of the show, tracks. Like if these guys are available right now, it's because there is some negatives that are going to come with them. You're not going to get a perfect guy. So we'll take if we take a shot on someone, it's going to be just that, a shot, because we can't guarantee their health through the season, and we can't guarantee that they're going to be the same player they were before that injury, and that's why they're still available.
That's true. And there's no perfect O line. There's no perfect O line in the league. It's not. Guys have been schemed up properly. They have the proper pieces, and they have a lot. Some of these teams have their O line has a lot of continuity, man. But it still holds. They still give up sacks.
I like this comment here from Bearsky Film. I'd feel better moving right to left tackle rather than getting Bakhtiari to play left tackle.
I also show his previous comment I like a lot too, because if you sign Bakhtiari and you feel good about him and you just bench Braxton Jones, you're just putting the brakes on the possible development of a guy who's done a fair job. He was drafted in the 5th round and played his entire rookie year as a starter. I mean, the guy has shown some grit, and I like to try to analyze a player based on how hard they work. Can they improve?
Braxton certainly does that. Yeah, he certainly does that.
Yeah, I don't know that Bakhtiari's in a point of his career where we're going to see that. Like if he plays healthy, he might be the guy he was. I doubt it, but Braxton might show you something more, right? Like that he's working his ass off to become the guy the Bears require at that position. And do you want to just kind of throw him aside and just have him be a depth piece until his contract?
Yeah, what kind of message are you sending to the rest of the players on your team when you do something like that? Going into a season, you're about to go into a season where you're planning on making the playoffs, hitting a 10-win mark, and you're just going to say, hey, this guy who's worked with us all summer, go sit down because we signed David Bakhtiari and
then that's probably it for Braxton. Unless Bakhtiari's injured, you're probably not going to. He's probably just on his way out as a Chicago Bear too.
For sure.
I don't know how I feel about that,
because that's not going to be one. That's definitely not going to want him to come back.
I'm very curious to know if Braxton Jones would go be a solid right tackle for somebody. To be honest with you, man.
Well, I mean, that's why I thought that the Bearsky comment on right to left tackle makes for an interesting thought process, because like, what if you just switch those two? Does that change the dynamic? Because you just went on, Brandon, about and real quick, guys, we got awesome comments coming in the chat. It's like I said, it's hard to keep up, but you guys are killing it. Thank you, Stockton 209, Trax, Bearsky, Ant Mash, Jeremy Munoz. So who else we got here? We got a bunch of people popping off. All right. Bear Truth 9, he's been throwing in some great comments. Guys, like and subscribe. Keep the comments coming. You're definitely making for an engaging conversation here. But Brandon, you just were going on about the interior of the offensive line being the biggest concern. But like, does that impact anything if you're saying Braxton Jones could go somewhere else and become some awesome right tackle? Why not try it here before we let him go somewhere else and become that? Now, again, he's locked up for a couple of years. We got him until 2025. We get a chance to see what he's going to turn into. Bearsky has made that point. So, I mean, like, I think we ride it out with what we have. I think we go into war with the guys that are going to be in here throughout the entire summer, throughout all training camp, throughout all the preseason games, and we show our confidence in them, and hopefully, they gel together. The big question mark to me is that center position between Coleman Shelton or Ryan Bates, and who's going to start and how are they going to perform?
That's a way bigger concern than that tackle position.
And we sit here as podcasters and talk about this if it's like just X's and Y. There's a yes or a no answer to signing Bakhtiari, but there's not, because Ryan Poles is going to look at who's available in free agency next year? If I spend money on Connor Williams and Bakhtiari and that doesn't work out, they're injured, am I affecting my ability to sign the guy that I want in free agency next season at left tackle? Is that a possibility too?
Yeah.
So
Are you sacrificing money to sign an awesome center next year?
yeah.
What
Yeah.
if Braxton Jones takes that next step forward? You that spent money on, I mean, but Bakhtiari will be a 1-year deal. You're not gonna be. You're not gonna be committing future money to him. I think this kind of falls in the same place. We had this Connor Williams discussion a couple weeks ago, fellas, and I think this kind of falls in the same, which is in the same space. It's like if he's cheap and it's a 1-year deal, and it doesn't really affect our chemistry too much. If it's only upside, there's really no downside. We're all for it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you
I have
can't
nothing
guarantee
against the
that.
But
player.
I'm not with the Bakhtiari move at all.
Not
Sorry.
not even
Nah.
at 1.5 million a year.
Not because
for 1 year.
his mentality not right, man. I mean, he
Yeah,
gonna
you're
come
big
in.
on that. Yeah,
He's coming in trying to be a starter, man. That's not what you're here for. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I think the consensus then is we're split here. I would take a chance. I don't see the harm in adding depth, but as you're saying, Darius, and that's a very good point, and we've made that point. If he's not okay with being depth, then what's the point of making that signing?
Right. Because
He
with him
seems
not
like-
being okay, he's gonna turn into a distraction.
He seems like the kind of guy though that would, if the Bears said that's what you're gonna be here, man. He'll take.
Well, maybe he chooses somewhere else to go then. You know, maybe.
There you go. There you go.
And then Track says, why wouldn't he want to be a starter? Of course he would want to be a starter, but why would the Bears need to acquiesce to that? Is my question. Because like Bearski says here, wouldn't you rather have the potential of Jones still improving over the 1-year deal of Bakhtiari? I just think
I would.
Yeah, I think I would too, because you're talking about what's past versus what could be a bright future. You know, as you said before, Darius, Bakhtiari's best years are one thing we know for sure. Bakhtiari's best years are behind him. They are not in front of him. They are not in front of him. Right. So we have to really consider that. So so I kind of fall in the middle, man. I feel like I would go for it if it was cheap, and there's nothing wrong with having insurance. But if he doesn't want that, then he can go somewhere else and find a nice spot for him to be that cornerstone guy, because I don't think it makes sense for the Bears.
No. Another thing that concerns me, because you're hearing Drew Rosenhaus pitch his guy and Connor Williams saying he's ready to go. He's probably not, but Bakhtiari had this surgery, I believe, week 2 of last year. Week 2. So he says in a statement, he said in June, my goal right now is to make sure that I not only fully recover, but I can withstand to play the game that I want to play. I mean, he's hoping right now that he fully recovers almost a year after the fact.
He's an older player. The recovery just is going to take longer. It's a bad injury.
Yeah.
There are too many question marks. And then Dan Sharp asks, what depth do we have? It's, as we talked, Matt Pryor, Kieran Amagaji, you got Larry Borum. I mean, the depth isn't the best, but I mean, I as you said earlier with Austin Booker, I kind of feel that Brandon. I kind of feel that way with Kieran Amagaji. I'd rather see what he has too than
and prior to God. And it's so funny, man. Here we go. We're talking because I love Kieran. I do, and he had a hell of a junior year, but another guy who suffered an injury that prevented him from playing football, man. So it's like this.
But he's a lot younger, and him getting healthier is going to be a more solid thing to bet on. You know.
Yeah, I think he's.
The Bears are obviously betting on that. They drafted him in the 3rd round. You know. I'd rather see him than David Bakhtiari as my backup left tackle. I think I would. I just in terms of, but again, it's hard.
Trax is big on Kieran too.
Yeah, he is, but he's big on the offensive line being as good as it possibly can be, which I totally understand. It's just it also has to make sense financially. It has to make sense chemistry wise. There's a lot of things that go into it besides just signing the best players possible. If the situation were to line up, it just for me it doesn't make sense that the Bears would be betting favorites to get Bakhtiari, just based on everything.
I also disagree with that. I would bet the Cowboys 100%.
The Cowboys were second, I believe.
They were third.
Third.
Ravens were second. Cowboys were third. Yeah. No, sorry. Chiefs second, Ravens third, Cowboys fourth.
Okay,
And
okay.
About to say you got
so
some Chiefs
so
in
your
there.
best. So if you're actually going to gamble on this, guys, which don't, but
I'd
if
go
you're going
Chiefs.
to, the Cowboys are your best betting on.
Yeah. Well, no, the Cowboys don't make no sense, Brandon. They got very little money, and they have big extensions coming up with Dak, CD, and Micah Parsons. That doesn't make any sense to me, honestly. The Cowboys, like
Yeah, I don't.
financially.
Where do we has Bakhtiari? Have we heard? Because we heard Connor Williams is looking for money. Like, have we heard what Bakhtiari expects after his
No,
$38 million
no.
hit on the Packers salary? Because I think that's what it cost the Packers to let him go, right?
Well, he said he wanted to be a corner piece,
Cornerstone guy.
a
Yeah.
cornerstone. Cornerstones are not cheap, man.
Yeah, no, he's definitely doing some marketing. He's doing.
Yeah, so he's telling us everything we need to know, man. And I wish him well, whatever team he signs with.
Bearski makes a good point here. Our O-line may be so used to sprinting side to side, chasing fields to try and block. Watch them look completely different with Caleb and improve drastically. He could see, yeah, that's what you're saying, Darius. And like I said, I think that's a symbiotic relationship. Caleb will help the O-line look better, but the O-line needs to help Caleb get better week to week in his rookie season. Like they both have to be pulling weights for that to work.
And another thing that I think's overlooked, and my biggest concern, guys, and this is the interior offensive line. It's going to be no matter what, but Shane Waldron had 4 out of 5 starters injured last year for almost the entire year on his offensive line, and he found a way to protect his quarterback. So you bring in guys like Mercedes Lewis, you bring in guys like DeAndre Swift, you keep a guy like Roshan Johnson, who you think has a better chance of making this roster than Khalil Herbert does, and you bring in a guy like Gerald Everett. I mean, these guys block. So he's gonna block for Caleb Williams every way he can. It's not gonna be the 5 guys up front and only those guys. We know that this offensive line, I think Taylor Dowell said she saw that they're ranked like 14th on paper before the season starts. I don't see that.
The Bears were ranked 11th by PFF, I'm pretty sure.
I saw them between 12 and 14. I don't personally believe that. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, guys. I think they're somewhere between, I don't know, 15 to 20. And is that good enough? Maybe. But I guarantee you that if there's issues with that offensive line, Waldron's going to find a way. He's going to find a way to protect a rookie quarterback. He's not just going to settle on mediocrity. You know what I mean? He did it last year with probably the worst offensive line in football.
Bearski makes a good point here that their run game suffered an awful lot with the O-line going down, and that's bound to happen. Kenneth Walker did not have.
Yeah, I know. It got brutal.
Season. Yeah. They weren't able to run the ball very well. That is
and
very
what they did do in Seattle, they did use the quick pass game.
Yeah,
they did a whole lot in screen game as well.
I was just going to say they didn't start giving Charbonnet quality snaps until Walker was injured over halfway through the year, and I was like that concerned me when we're talking about Shane Waldron, because that guy catches the ball. That's what he was known for when he was drafted out of college. I was a little concerned with his use of Charbonnet after his offensive line got beat up, because that guy can catch the ball, and Geno Smith's a guy who should get rid of it quickly.
Yeah, they do a whole lot. They did a whole lot in the screen with the screen game in Seattle as well. And I think he's going to bring that Chicago, because Swift is very good out of the backfield.
Yeah, absolutely. 40 plus receptions every year.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I mean, we could talk about this all day. I think. I mean, we've gone 48 minutes on it talking about the potential for David Bakhtiari. So obviously, we can talk, guys. And thank you for being here and listening. Guys, do you guys remember how Geno Smith lost his job? With the Jets? Yeah, in New York, he says.
Being a bad player. I still wouldn't make a case that Geno Smith. I see him in some list listed in like top 12.
Honestly, Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell should start for that team. What up, Squeegee? How you doing?
I still don't think Geno Smith's a very good player. I don't.
He had a great year. Year
2
before
years
last.
ago.
Yeah, year before last, he had a great year. But hey, man, a broke clock is right twice a day.
He says he promised to pay a plane ticket for some 7th round pick and didn't. Like he was just an asshole, I guess. Okay, no, I don't remember. I don't remember any of this, Bearsky. The player was upset with Gino about money.
Oh, I remember
Practice and
that.
hit him in the jaw.
Yeah, I remember
Luigi
that.
living the dream. Ant Mass, bear down.
Well, and he also, Geno Smith was he was a high drafted player that just didn't
He
play.
didn't live up to it.
I mean, it's like, why did Zach Wilson lose his job? We can say a lot of things, but the guy was drafted with the second overall pick in the draft, and he lost more games than he won, and he threw more turnovers than touchdowns. And that was the reality for Geno Smith, I think, too, until he finally was placed. That's why you got to be excited for Shane Waldron, guys, is because he kind of revitalized what that guy's worth, and not by not asking him to do a whole lot. Let's be
I
honest, he
asked him
really
to do
did.
what he could do, like what
Yeah.
he was good at, and
And
really
if you remember,
taking
Gino
advantage of that.
From West
West
Virginia,
Virginia, yeah.
he was that quick pass game was his thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I
Yeah.
still,
The screen game, that was him.
Ryan Poles said something. I don't know if this is the actual quote. I keep seeing it on Facebook, and I've neglected to look it up and see if it's true. Ryan Poles said, "Justin Fields is a quarterback you win with. Caleb Williams is a quarterback you win because of. Geno Smith is not a quarterback you win because of." And he's not.
Well, clearly, because they haven't won. The coach just got fired. I mean, that's why Shane Waldron is even here in the first place. They did not have a very good season last year. But speaking of good seasons, I want to get into the Bears game by game odds here, guys, because I thought there was some really interesting stuff that came out here with DraftKings in terms of the game to game odds with the Bears. And I kind of just want to go through these. And if you guys are, I think this is going to be a lot of fun because I'm not shocked, but I'm like happy with what I'm seeing here. I don't know what you guys have you guys got a chance to look at it, but I kind of got them all here in front of me, and this is exciting, guys. The Bears are favored in 10 out of 17 games, according to the odds makers. They're giving up points in 10 out of 17 games. So that means they expect them to win 10 games after setting their over under earlier in the offseason at 8.5. So what we're talking about here, the Shane Waldron thing, the offensive line thing, the Caleb Williams factor, all of that stuff is going to play into how we think these Bears are going to do this year and if they're going to win those 10 games. No, it's so Bearsky. I don't know that it moved. The line moved. I'm just DraftKings released their game by game odds, so he's asking. So it moved from 8.5 to 10. I don't know that it did. I thought that was a, I thought that was a low total when they put it out. And obviously DraftKings. This is just DraftKings agrees because they're favored in just game by game. They're favored in 10 of them. Bearsky.
I'm definitely taking the over on the 8.5.
Yeah. If I were a betting man, I got too many vices as it is, and I get carried away. I got an addictive personality, so I gotta be careful with those things. I started betting, man. It's so easy on your phone. I was betting on Chinese basketball at 2 a.m, bro. Like and gosh, I didn't know even the teams. I was just betting them based, just randomly choosing because I like the line. So
you are not alone, brother.
I
You are
gotta
not
stay
alone.
away from the gambling.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of this, we're going to talk about these lines. We're going to go through game by game and kind of discuss and share and see what the chat thinks and see what you guys think because there was some very fun stuff in here. You guys ready for that?
Let's go.
All right. So first game versus Tennessee, Bears are minus 4.5 points. So they're 4.5 point favorites to beat Tennessee. I don't think there's a surprise there. What do you guys think?
Not at all.
No, and I think for a lot of these games, and I imagine for the overall 10 wins in general, people are so focused on this Bears offense, which we're all excited for because it might be the first time we actually get one. But the Bears are going to play seven out of the 8 quarterbacks drafted in the first round over the last 2 years, and their defense finished last season as a top 10 unit. So I think a lot of these matchups we're going to see a lot of these betting odds are going to be, how does Montez Sweat handle the Will Levises and the Anthony Richardsons and the JJ McCarthy's if he plays the game? It's heavily again, I think, based on the Bears defense against really young quarterbacks that don't have a whole lot of history in the league.
Well, you got CJ Stroud. He was the number 2 pick last year. Bryce Young, the number 1 pick. Anthony Richardson from last year, the fourth pick,
Drake
right?
May,
Fifth pick. Drake May with New England,
JJ McCarthy,
Jaden Daniels with Washington, Kyler Murray with Arizona,
JJ McCarthy possibly if there's
JJ
a switch.
McCarthy, Jordan Love as well was a first round draft pick. And then Jared Goff was the number one pick just about 8 years ago. So yeah, a lot of highly drafted players at the quarterback position that they're going against. Some of them more veteran than others, but yeah, I mean it's kind of stacked for that. It's going to be a lot of fun to see the Caleb versus quarterback matchup,
Yeah.
whoever that is, right? So,
but we got some unproven guys too that we're going against.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and our guy is unproven going against them, so it's going to be interesting to watch. But he's proven enough, according to these guys, to have them be favorites in more games than they're not. So that's what's interesting to me. Now at Houston, so we're saying a win at Tennessee, right, guys?
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's anything really too intriguing to talk. I think a lot of people think Tennessee is much improved. I don't. I really don't. I don't see Tennessee winning more than 5 games this year. I don't think one of them is going to be against the Bears in Chicago first week.
Yeah, they put together a decent receiving core, but I'm still not sold on really any. They have no identity, and they fired a good coach, man.
Bearsky says number 1 overall picks, the last 15 of them are 0-15 in week 1. I'm going to tell you that Caleb Williams is going to break that for sure, Bearsky. the Titans aren't coming into Chicago and beating the Bears week 1. I don't see it.
No, they lost.
If it were Houston, yeah, I got you. But if Tennessee, I'm not a Levis fan. I don't see him out-dueling Caleb in any game, no matter when we play it. To be honest,
well, if Caleb was playing Mike
Bearsky.
Vrabel's defense, I'd feel a little worse about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And Caleb don't have to light the scoreboard up. We got a defense over there. I don't think Will Levis stands a chance against our defense.
I think the Bears are going to run the ball because the Titans fired a coach who was phenomenal at stopping that from happening, man.
Brandon, you want to take that question? Who is Tennessee's running back?
I think Tajay Spears is going to be listed as the starter.
Yeah,
they did sign Pollard. They let Henry go on. They signed Pollard, which is a egregious downgrade. But I do think Tajay Spears, the second-year player, will take the starting role over Pollard.
Okay, well that's interesting. So there is some Titans talk. They did improve their O-line. They hired Callahan, I believe, as their head coach, right? So I mean they're moving in the right direction, but they're not on the Bears level right now. Pollard is listed as running back 1, and I don't think Spears is going to be. Just to disagree with you, Brandon, I don't think Spears will be the number 1 running back to start the season. Pollard is going to get that opportunity. I think we've seen that Pollard is not a number 1 running back, and I think
no, he's not.
See that.
He's a good spell.
Spears will end up being the number 1 running back, but not to start.
Spears is pretty good, though. He's pretty good.
I like him. A good overall running back. He can do a lot. So, but Bears are winning that game, guys. Thank you for playing devil's advocate, Bearsky, but Bears are winning that game. Caleb's going to break that stat for us, okay? Next week at Houston, the Bears are 3.5-point underdogs. So that's a game that I think the Bears are going to lose for sure. And I think but what surprised me was that it was only 3.5 points in Houston. That shows a lot of respect for the Bears, I think. I mean, it's a little over a field goal, just giving them that half point over the field goal, but still, like, you could see that being 5.5, maybe 6, but this Bears team is being given a lot of respect with that number, I think.
That's going to be a very good game, man. And I think it's going to come down to the very end.
Yeah, I think Caleb's going to handle home games much better this year. I think he's that kind of guy where, like, if he's got the crowd behind him, he kind of puffs his chest out and becomes that guy. I don't. His first game away from Chicago, being at a team like Houston, that's a train that's just going to keep on rolling. That one.
Yeah, I think I don't think that that's a particularly close game. I hope it's a high scoring game, and I hope the Bears stay in it. But I could see that being a game that humbles them pretty.
Yeah, quick. I would love to have Houston at home. That'd be nice.
Yeah, but I think either way the Bears are losing that.
If our defense is what it's supposed to be, I think it's going to be a very close game.
Yeah, for sure. And I would love to see that. And if it is a close game, that means it's a high scoring game, which can be a lot of fun, and it's a prime time game. So the fireworks might come out for that one. But I think we got a loss for that one, guys. At Indianapolis, this kind of surprised me, but I guess it's because Indianapolis is at home. They're 2-point favorites. The Colts are 2-point favorites over the Bears going into that game, and I love that bet for the Bears.
Yeah, me too. They're very high on Richardson.
Everyone is. Yeah, for sure.
I personally am not, because I've watched him consistently down here when he was at Florida. I wasn't very impressed, but as far as athlete, he's top notch athlete, but I don't
He
really
can throw the
believe.
hell out of a deep ball. He can throw the hell
Yeah,
out
I
of a deep
mean,
ball.
the deep ball looks good, but the other parts of his game, I think he's gonna throw a lot of interceptions if he plays the whole season.
That makes sense because this is technically going to be basically his rookie year, right? He did not play very much in his actual rookie year. So I mean, from a playing standpoint, he's a rookie quarterback. Him and Caleb aren't going to have much difference in experience. Just a few games and an off season, which makes a huge difference. But I'm just saying, like Anthony Richardson having some growing pains this season makes sense if he plays the whole season.
Yeah, that Colts team is a good team. It's a good football team, and I'd prefer Anthony Richardson play that game versus the Bears than if they had kept Gardner Minshew and he played because he ran the system that's Steichen. They're really well. I love the coach, man. I really do.
Steichen's a great coach.
But I agree with you, Dustin. Anthony Richardson's really not going to have too much more experience than Caleb Williams. I could see, I don't mind the 2 points either which way. Bears be favored, Colts be favored. Doesn't matter to me because it'll probably be a close game. The Colts team it's a good roster. It is. They're
Let's
coached
not
really.
forget that they were in a playoff game at the end of last season to go to the playoffs.
No, they overachieved.
They almost beat Houston to knock them out of the playoffs and send themselves to the playoffs. So they're not a bad team. They're a good team.
And I think Steichen was in conversations for being coach of the year because I mean, talk about adversity. They lost their first round quarterback really early. I think it was like week 3 or 4, and they still played good football, which just goes to show you that they not only got a decent roster, but they're coached really well. But I like that Richardson's back for this game. I think that's gonna hurt the Colts' chances. This is a really, really tough secondary, man. Any quarterback that doesn't have experience that's going to play this Bears secondary is going to have a tough time, man. They're a really talented secondary.
Yeah, losing Richardson was a blessing for them. I know it sounds crazy.
I'm not gonna jump on the. I mean, and Bearsky asks, is Anthony Richardson hurt by this game? That's the one thing for sure. Like, can he stay healthy? But if he's healthy, I'm not gonna jump on the shit on him train because I think he's gonna be a pretty good player, especially fantasy wise, man. I mean, he's gonna run for some touchdowns. He's gonna throw for some. That Colts team, and like you said, Steichen's a very good head coach. Gardner Minshew is a solid player, but he ain't better than Anthony Richardson at his best. I don't think so.
No,
the upside he gives your team is not. It's not.
I'm getting Justin Fields vibes, man.
I liked Richardson a lot coming out of college. I do.
For sure. Well, I think that's a win for the Bears, guys. I think that's a good bet. If you're going to be betting on that, if that's still a +2, the Bears are still getting 2 points. Take that all day because they're going to win that game.
Yes, indeed.
This one surprised me, guys. Hosting the Los Angeles Rams, the Bears are 1.5 point favorites. I remember when the schedule came out, Brandon, Darius, we hadn't talked during that time, but we were kind of like, that was one where we were like, that's going to be a tough one for the Bears. I don't know if I think I picked them for a loss in that game.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did, right? They're 1.5 point favorites at home, guys.
I think we were all kind of in agreement that this is probably likely a shootout kind of game and that the experience will win in the end. And I don't that Rams, I think a lot of people are putting stock into Aaron Donald's retirement, which I understand. The guy, I mean, probably the best to ever do at that position, but the Rams drafted really well.
The downplay of the Rams losing Aaron Donald.
No, but the Rams drafted phenomenally. At the defensive line, they drafted quality players, man. Jared Verse is going to be a monster. Man.
Jared Verse is a good player.
He's going to be a monster.
Braden Fisk, I don't think so. He definitely ain't replacing Aaron Donald, not in any capacity. They're going to need.
Well, I don't think you can find anybody
Braden Fisk to replace Aaron Donald.
Stafford's going to do what Stafford does, regardless of how.
Well, you were talking about the defense. Losing Aaron Donald is a big freaking deal, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, especially when you're a rookie quarterback's about to face a team that no longer has Aaron Donald. But
yeah,
I don't like if Caleb Williams goes into a shootout with a guy who's won a Super Bowl and played in this league for 12 years. I don't like I don't like
Yeah,
our
yeah,
chances.
yeah. No, I think that I think DraftKings got this one wrong, Darius.
And Puka Nakua,
McVay is slick, man. McVay is slick, man.
He's a
Puka,
hell
Nak-
of a coach. He got a
He's
lot
slick,
out of that
man.
team last
He's
year,
slick.
man. A
Puka
lot out.
Nakua might be going on to be the best receiver in this
If you
league.
guys remember last year, the Rams were getting dumped on by everybody going into the season. There was nothing to picking 4 or 5 wins for them. They went to the damn
Yeah, we
playoffs
were
and
talking about
almost beat the
rebuilding.
Lions.
We
Yeah,
were
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about stripping it all down.
That's McVay, and that was Raheem Morris too, who they lost. So that, I mean, that's the huge loss that no. I mean, that might be as big as Aaron Donald losing Raheem Morris, the mastermind of that defense. That makes a big. He got a lot out of those young defensive linemen there. So I mean, they definitely have lost some stuff, but they could have cut back. And like Bersky points out here, Puka Nakua had the 1,500. Bro, he was a hell of a rookie receiver for them. So I mean, the system is there for them. And like you said, Brandon, if it gets into a shootout, I don't see the Bears winning that game if it becomes like a back and forth because Stafford, just the chances of him making that mistake to lose you the game are just so low.
Oh, and real quick, guys, I kind of overlooked this thought when we were talking about the Texans game. I think that there was a couple people saying that the Bears could beat the Texans. Another thing you got to be. We just talked about the offensive line for 48 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Texans defensive line is scary. It's frightening at this juncture. Will Anderson is about to take a giant leap forward, and
That is
Daniil Hunter just had the best season of his career. Caleb Williams is going to be under pressure in that football game. He's going to
It's
be.
true.
that's
That's
going
one
to
of
be a
those.
Braxton Jones prove it game for sure.
That's one of those games where I think the line just gets too overwhelmed, man. I really believe that.
Well, and you mentioned Jared Verse with the Rams for this game. I mean, there's going to be some tough matchups, and they got a lot of guys returning that performed really well for the Rams
Yeah,
last year.
who's
Along,
the end across from Verse? The guy who was there last year had a great year too. I think he had like 8.5 sacks or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Now I'm gonna tell you, the Rams' weak spot on defense is that secondary.
Oh, absolutely. They're ranked 31st.
That and it didn't really get any better.
I'm trying to
No,
tell you.
no, they went heavy on pass rush.
So I mean, well, I think it's a loss for the Bears, man. Still, I don't. I mean, the fact that they're favorites really intrigues me, and again, it's just more showing like the amount of respect that these odds makers have for this Bears roster, and that we've been getting excited and we've been getting high on them, but like. I feel like this kind of validates some of that, that hype we've had for this Bears team. Like it feels good to see it like the Bears favored in that game, but I still don't know if I can pick them to win it.
No, and another thing that scares me, man, is whenever Matt Stafford's behind a quality run game, like they figured out last year to kind of
Yeah,
make that run to the playoffs. When Kieran Williams started to do his thing, it's when Stafford starts to feel comfortable back there because the run game's working, man, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
it's the deception, man. Sean McVay, man, he's so
shows you
deceptive,
one thing and gives you
man.
another. Yeah.
He can run like 6 things out of the same damn formation, man. And all it takes is an audible, man. You know what I mean?
Yannick says he's back. When Track says back where? Went to the gas station. Some Phillies.
I think it's the other side of that discussion that's more important. I'm saying I'm back to the Bears, guys.
Sends a letter, Jordan style. I'm back. All right. So I think we're. I'm picking a loss there. What do you guys? I mean, if you guys could sway me, I mean, we got
No, I
three
don't love
people
it.
here.
I mean, it's in Chicago, but I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't like I said, if that turns into a shootout, I like the chances even less.
That's gonna be a tricky one, man.
They
Yeah,
came
it's
on strong
basically a
last year,
pick 'em.
man. Those teams scare the crap out of me. Those teams that finish seasons super, like really well like that, like the Rams did early in the next year. Football kind of plays out this way. If you watch the teams that finish strong at the end of one season, the next season they come in hot. They always do.
That's true.
I'm picking a loss, guys. I'm picking a loss. Uh, versus Carolina, the Bears are 5.5 point favorites. I don't think that's surprising. I think they could have been favored by a little bit more. Um, the Panthers aren't going to be good, guys. I don't. I
No,
like Bryce Young to step up and get better this year. I really do, but I don't think that's going to translate to wins for this team.
no, they
Yeah.
put some quality receivers around him, but I mean, was that like the worst move by any team this offseason?
What's that?
They lost not only their best defender, but one of the
Brian
best.
Burns?
Oh my God, bro! Like, what are you doing? Like, it didn't make sense to me, man. Because didn't they also pay him then trade him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of the. I think that was part of the trade, to be honest. Just
Like
like
sign and trade. Yeah,
they were just keeping the asset so that they could move it. They were, and then I saw in Hard Knocks like the conversation between Morgan and the Giants GM Sheehan was just like, you want to trade Brian Burns for a first round pick? And Morgan's like, gonna need a little more than that. Like they just had this casual conversation about it.
Yeah.
Brian Burns ends up on the Giants. I mean, I don't think I don't think the Panthers are in good hands. I don't think that their GM is a good GM. I don't see them going in a good direction. I see the Bears kind of beating the crap out of this line.
no, yeah, they got owners throwing drinks at people, so that's not good either, man.
Oh yeah, Tepper. Yeah, and then here Bearsky, there's a clip during the draft where the Carolina owner is consulting his wife on her opinion on who to draft. What color team did he play for? Yeah, no,
No, yeah, the
Carolina
Panthers are
is
gonna
gonna
have
be dismal, guys.
Panthers are gonna have a bad year all around. And they did have a good. They upgraded the receiving core a lot, so they're trying for Bryce Young.
I don't know about a lot, but more than what it was for sure. Like they're I think Bryce Young is a good quarterback, guys. I really do. I think he's a good football player. I think it's easy to jump down his throat, but I could see him taking a good step forward this year, but I don't think that'll impact the game with the Bears.
No.
I think the Bears win this one. Now the London game with the Jags, and Bearsky made the point, it's an interesting schedule. We don't have I mean, we're not playing a division game. He said till week 8. I believe it's till week
8,
11.
yeah.
I think it's week 11. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8 is the bye week, isn't it?
I got 10 games into the season. 11. Yeah. I got week 11. That's when they play Green Bay. So that's crazy. They start out with 3 games straight against the AFC South. They got a London game. Then they got two away games against Washington, Arizona. They got 3 home games in a row, then 3 away games against 2 of them being against Detroit, San Francisco. I mean, we're gonna get into it, but like this schedule is crazy, guys. It really is the way it's set up.
Feels like it was almost intentional.
But that Jags one is a pick 'em, guys. +1 for the Bears, and the Bears are getting a point against the Jags, the London Jaguars.
That's gonna be a tough one because the Jags they play like a real team when they go to London.
That's why they should just move to London because they weren't playing like a real team last year down the stretch, man.
No,
I don't know, man. Go ahead, Brandon.
That's fine. To me, if you ask me, that's the worst coach team in football. And as I said, a team that's finishing a season strong. And it's only in the NFL does it really work this way, where a team who's getting momentum from one season can carry it to a next. It's the same thing when a team plummets. Those guys fell so short of expectations. They were 8-3. They had the division by the nuts, and they just blew. I mean, they did everything they needed to do to check the box to lose that division, and
it's like they did it on purpose.
I don't think it gets any better, man.
It's like they wanted that to happen.
It's like Urban Meyer. It's like Urban Meyer's ghost is still haunting that team, man. I don't see it working in their favor this year.
Well, their quarterback did get hurt. Their quarterback got injured, man, and that's a big deal.
Well, and he got a deal, right? He got paid. I mean, like Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback, and I think if Caleb Williams can have the type of success Trevor Lawrence has on a team that's actually run well, that's not a bad hope, to be honest. But I would say that the Bears are winners in this game, guys. I think the Jaguars, the way they finished last season, and we've talked about this before, that's going to carry into this season. I think Peterson is a dead man walking. I think that team is going to just sell him out, sell him up the river.
Like he did to all his coaches.
Exactly. Like he did to his defensive coordinator at the end of this past season. Those losses were on him as far as I'm concerned. And this team knows it. They're going to quit on him, and they're going to get him fired. And that might happen after this week 6 game in London, guys. So I'm seeing dysfunction in Jacksonville, and that's going to travel with them to London, and the Bears are going to win this game. So if you're betting it, man, take the Bears +1. We all in consensus there. Oh, Darius is gone.
Yeah, Doug Peter. I wouldn't bet a thing on that guy.
I will bet that he won't make it to the end of the season. He's getting fired middle of the season.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that he'd be the first coach fired next year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a good spot for it to happen right there. Losing that London game.
Yeah, in London. Yeah, that's game the city he's supposed to win, right?
Yeah. I mean, at Washington, they're 2-point favorites on the road in Washington. Like, how many times did we see the Bears be favorites on the road last year, man? I can't think of many or any. This is exciting shit. I think that excites me, man.
No,
They're getting this much respect here.
In Washington's an interesting team, and they
I think they're going to
scrapped.
be better than people.
They're right. They scrapped they scrapped Chase Young. They scrapped Montez Sweat. They kept John Allen. They kept Deron Payne. So they kept some quality players on that line. They drafted okay. I honestly think they did, but then they replaced Rivera with Dan Quinn. So I think the defense improves this year.
Dan Quinn is a hell of a coach, man.
I don't like anything about that offense, man. I don't like. I'm not a big McLaurin guy. I don't like anything about that offense.
Scary Terry, you're not a Scary Terry fan?
Nah.
You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
He's a number 2 on most teams. I think. I don't love anything about that offense.
Cliff is back. What up, Cliff?
What do you think about? What do you think about that offense against the Bears defense?
I think that offense will be interesting with Jaden. I could see them being fun to watch. I mean, Doxson, I thought showed some things last year as he was starting to figure out the game.
Yeah, he was on my fantasy team. I also do like Brian Robinson, the running back.
Have we actually considered just not listening to him and trying to hide? Bearsky caught my Rick and Morty. That's good. No, yeah. I mean, I like Scary Terry. I like Dan Quinn. I like the Cliff Kingsbury hire for them.
I just got that. It's just
you slow bastard. you painted the Rick painting there, man.
I did. Yeah,
you did. Brandon painted that, guys, and then gave it to me. With a kiss.
Washington's not there yet, man. Like you said earlier, Dustin.
They're not there, but
what
I
team
think
were you
they're a
referring
6
to?
or 7 win team, man.
Tennessee. The Bears. I didn't realize, guys. Another thing I haven't really thought about: how many teams the Bears play this year that just scrapped their coaching staff? They played a lot of brand new coaches. When you get the Patriots, you've got the Titans, you've got the Washington Commanders. You've got a lot of teams here. You've got a lot of teams here that just fired and then you're playing Doug Peterson, who should have been fired.
Just 5 teams, only 5 teams.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot in 1 year.
There was like 10 coaching changes. The Bears are playing 5 of them.
Yeah, we're playing half the coach. First year head coaches, man. That's a lot. That works in the Bears' favors. Yeah, you're right. The schedule's nuts, guys.
No, yeah, and it really plays in the Bears' favor, and I think the odds make it know that.
They're like, let's let Caleb develop himself a little bit against these first-year, second-year quarterbacks and first-year coaches, and then he gets into the nitty-gritty. Yeah.
I think that Washington game is a little tougher than we might think on the surface, and Bearsky here, as he always does, makes another great point. Jaden Daniels is the oddball. I liked Jaden Daniels in this draft process. I don't like his size. I don't like his ability to stay healthy. That's my biggest concern with him. But if he's healthy and in that game, that's going to be a really fun game to watch. Caleb and Jaden dueling it out. But I like the Bears as favorites in that, man. And I like the Bears as favorites on the road, and I think they win that game.
I do too. I like, now, honestly, I do like the Bears. And let's be honest, DJ Moore had one of the greatest games a receiver ever had in NFL history against that Washington team a year ago with Justin Fields.
Yeah, they didn't get much better in the secondary, but they did get Dan Quinn, who's a great secondary coach, man. So
but I think if Fields could tear that team apart, which he did, I think it was probably his best performance as a passer. Caleb's got the ability to do the same.
You're not spamming the chat, Bearsky. We appreciate your comments, man. You're keeping the conversation going. Don't worry about it.
Did he do the? Who did the?
He was the Scary Terry. Have we ever considered that? Can just hide. All right. So right now, against the spread, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-2. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-2 for the Bears going to Arizona, and they're 1.5-point favorites on the road in Arizona too. 2 games in a row, they are favorites on the road, guys. This Bears team is getting respect from odds makers, and that's rare. I mean, now the Bears fans do bet really well, so I mean, maybe they're trying to bait us, but
real quick. What do you think the dynamic? Because Dan Quinn is a great head coach, right? He's the guy. He's kind of the guy that we question.
Great defensive coordinator too.
We question whether or not Eberflus can be Dan Quinn because they're both defensive coordinators that can call plays. Do you think Kingsbury just runs that offense?
Oh, bitch. Do I think what? Yeah, no, I think he was brought there for that very reason. I think it's going to be a very similar setup to what we're going to see in Chicago. I think Eberflus, needing him being the head coach, he needs to focus on the whole scope of the game. And I think him being the defensive coordinator calling the plays, I don't think that can last. I think he's going to need to give that off to Eric Washington before the season's over for him to really take the next step. He's favored to be head coach of the year, right? By the odds, he's plus 900. I mean, that's going to take him making some smart decisions this year. One of them being to stop doing the play calling. But I think Waldron's here to oversee this offense, and then him just to make sure that they're running the right plays in the right situations. And I think Dan Quinn is going to do the same thing in Washington. Cliff Kingsbury has been a head coach in the NFL, not a good one, but he's a great offensive mind. He's a guy you would want running your offense, I think, depending on the style you're trying to run.
He's a guy, if you're Jaden Daniels, you probably don't mind playing.
Exactly. So I mean, yeah, I think you're looking at the same setup. I think there's some mirroring stuff going on between Washington and Chicago, just in terms of how they set this up with the coaches and the head coach and the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks they've drafted. Bearsky says Eberflus could also be first on the chopping block. Cliff says Washington will be bad this season. I mean, bad is a relative term. I think I could see them getting 6 wins, man, and I think that could be a successful season for them, given what they just went through this past offseason. If they play hard and they're in some games, and I think they'll be in that game against the Bears, guys.
Well, if they won 6 games, I mean, did we not all assume they were like completely stripping that thing? Like they were sell at the trade deadline for everything. Yeah. I thought it was about to blow up, and they're like, we can actually keep this thing together and move
they
forward.
Made some really good moves in free agency too. They got some good offensive linemen. They signed Austin Eckler, who might still have some left in the tank. Like,
as a receiver, he does. Yeah,
that offense is gonna be at least interesting to watch. And Dan Quinn, like a lot of people might not feel this way, but I think Dan Quinn is a hell of a head coach. I think he's getting another shot, and it's well deserved. And I think he's gonna do well with that opportunity. That's what I think. I think he showed that in Dallas. I mean, he took that Atlanta team to the Super Bowl. It was an epic collapse, but he got him there. Like he's a good head coach. So, anyways, I think Washington is going to be a tougher out. Darius trying to get back on. Let me see here.
It is the next game that can.
Sorry, Darius.
Nah, no problem.
Welcome back, brother. How you doing?
Hey, I don't know what happened, but I'm back.
Okay, I'm glad you're back, my man. Thank you for
sending
me that message. I did not see it in there.
We have the Bears winning against Washington, but it being a tougher game than people assume it will be.
Yeah, right now we got the Bears at 5-2 going to Arizona, and I was just kind of pointing out how the Bears are favorites on the road 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. I think they're 1.5-point favorites in Arizona. What do you guys think of that?
We talked about this one for a while last time, and I do agree. Kyle had a pretty hard stand on it.
Kyle was just picking them to lose just because they're bound to lose. Like you can't pick them to win everyone.
No, but I don't, and I'm not playing. I'm not playing that angle. I do think though. I like Kyler Murray, man. I do. I really do like Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's gotten so much grief. And if you look at his statistics since he's been a starting quarterback in the NFL, he really hasn't had a year you can call bad, honestly. I do think there's some young pieces on that team that I wouldn't mind having on the Bears. Trey McBride is one of my favorite players, I think, in the NFL.
Yeah, he's very good, man.
Yeah. That guy won me some fantasy matchups last year.
And then John Draft Vogel was saying he thought they had the best draft of any team. Last week when we talked to him, I don't necessarily agree with that. I thought they reached for some players. I didn't I mean, they were filling a lot of needs because they had a lot of picks, but I wasn't particularly impressed with the picks that they added in all those spots. I mean,
I'm
but
glad we get to see Marvin Harrison up close and personal, man. That'll be fun.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is already leading that the receiver group in Arizona.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be McBride's gonna finish second in receptions on that team.
No, I'm saying
No doubt about it.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is already a leader in that building.
Oh yeah,
They are
as a
following
person.
his
Yeah.
lead. So I mean, and he's all we already know what he is physically. So that's gonna be he's gonna make a big impact on Kyler Murray. You were talking about Kyler Murray and him not really getting enough credit for how not bad he's been. He's been pretty, above average
Right,
to,
just
to good, when he's played and he's healthy. The
when you
biggest
get
question
that,
with him is, can he stay healthy, Brandon?
yeah,
Yeah,
when you
it's
when you
gonna be
get
one of
that,
them games where Jalen gonna have to earn that check.
yeah, when you get that contract,
Yeah, yeah.
you get so much scrutiny. You know what I mean? When Kyler got paid, it was like it was the same story we get, every same argument you hear every time anybody gets paid. Did I don't know if he deserved that much, but like I went back and like kind of thoroughly dove into his game logs and box scores and like that dude balls, man. He's had like a lot of really good years with like over 20 touchdowns, a low amount of interceptions. He throws yards, hella yards, and he's going to, like you just said this. How
He
much
can
better is a
run.
quarterback gonna get with a guy like Marvin Harrison?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's not. He hasn't really had a true number one receiver, as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
No, he hasn't.
Hopkins towards the end of his career, right? Like that wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
but he had a good year, and
yeah, he
Kyler
did.
gave
He
threw
did,
him the
but
ball.
Hopkins wasn't like at his best at that point in my mind. And I mean, obviously he's still playing. It's not the end of his career, but like it's just like he's on the downturn. So I mean, like, to have a guy like that, it's going to make a big impact on Kyler Murray. Do you think it makes an impact on this game, Darius? Who do you think wins this game?
Oh, I like us to win this one.
Arizona. I mean,
I
that's
like the defense to do what we all think they're gonna do. Play like a top 10 unit.
Gannon is a hell of a coach too. We were talking about Steichen. Gannon was the
He
other guy
is.
hired off of that Philadelphia Eagles roster team that after they went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Gannon has had that team playing real hard last year. I think that's why a lot of people like Arizona as a sneaky team. I don't. I don't think that they're going to win more than 5 games this year. They're in a pretty tough division.
Well, if you ask me, he beat the teams that he was familiar with.
Okay. Yeah, like coming from the NFC East. Yeah, yeah. Like he
Yeah.
beat the Cowboys. Yeah,
Yeah.
that with Dobbs as their quarterback in that game, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And they just kind of knew what their weaknesses were. Yeah, I remember that. So
Between the injuries from the year he tore his knee to the year he missed most of last season, he's really played about 3 and 3/4 seasons. Kyler Murray, he's thrown 15,600 yards, 94 touchdowns, 46 interceptions with a passer rating of 93. Like
Kyler Murray,
this kid
you're
has done
preaching to
nothing
the
but
choir here,
ball.
man. I love Kyler Murray. I really
Yeah. He's
do.
not terrible. He's not terrible at
I
all.
think he's a good quarterback. And with the right coaching, and the right attitude, I think the biggest issue with him has been like, is he going to grow up and get at the books,
Yeah.
and actually and put his mind to the game instead of
Yeah, he
playing
doesn't love
video
that. He likes Call of Duty a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that's the biggest question with him now. If he flips that switch, that becomes a whole different story, I think, because he's got all the physical abilities. I don't care how tall he is. The guy can throw a damn football really well.
That's true.
He makes smart decisions. But
Hey,
He's
listen,
also been challenged. He's also been challenged because, when Kingsbury was there, he was running the same offense he had been running since high school. And last year, they challenged him to really get into the playbook and they expand his game a little bit.
yeah.
when then we saw that he missed almost the whole year, you were kind of wondering, like, is this guy come back? As we talked about with Bakhtiari, these guys and kind of the injuries like that are substantial. And did you guys see the plays he made at the end of that Eagles game to win that game? I mean,
Yeah.
like the guy he ran 40 yards to run 10. It's
Okay.
like he's still got it, man.
So you're picking the Cardinals in this one, Brandon.
I don't love the game either way. I could see it being a game the Bears lose, but and it's in Arizona.
Yep, it's in
Yeah,
Arizona.
I would pick the Cardinals in that game.
Okay, so we got one Cardinals, one Bears. It is a tough one, but I'm going Bears, guys. We're picking a win.
So we got him at 7-3,
2,
7-2,
7 and 2,
7-2.
7-2. They had a chance to move on from him. They instead added a weapon for him. Arizona is all in on Kyler. All right. Cliff Victoria says, I watched my son at Call of Duty. I think any U.S. enemies are in trouble. Thanks, guys. All right. So, yeah, we got them at 7-2 right now, going back to Chicago to play New England, where they are 5.5-point favorites.
Oh,
I think
God.
that says a lot about what people think about this Patriots team. They're going to have a rough season, guys, and
Yeah,
the Bears should be
They're bad.
beneficiaries of that in this game.
And that is, I'm sorry. I hope I'm wrong. I wish him success. I actually liked him a lot as a player. I don't think Mayo's a good coach. I didn't like the hire. I don't think that plays out in their favor in the long run. I really don't. I thought once Vrabel was fired, he was for sure the head coach of the New England Patriots. They came out of left field and hired a guy that's been in finance for the last 2 years. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't love Drake May. I don't love Jacoby Brissett. I don't know what the hell is that team is a disaster.
7-2 is nuts, Bearsky. I agree. I mean, I'm kind of looking at.
Am I? Is that the worst? Like, even over the Panthers, like, I think the Patriots finished with the worst record in the NFL.
I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to come down to those two teams. And the Bears are lucky enough to play them both, within a 6-week period of time. I mean,
And even if he's good, that's a first-year head coach. I think struggles tremendously as a rookie coach. I really do, with a bad roster.
I want to talk about
Well-
what Bearsky's saying here, though. He's saying 7-2 is nuts, and and it is like I don't think I'm picking. I don't think we're picking wins here that don't make sense. The Bears' schedule does get tougher. Like, again, we haven't played a division game yet. as we're going through this, right? So there are some losses coming.
No, but
here. I
and
hope the Bears can stack up. The Bears need to take advantage of this soft schedule in order to make the playoffs this year. They have to get at least 6-7 wins by this point in order to get ready for the second half of the season.
We do have them winning a lot of away games, which should concern anybody. Like when you've got
we have them winning 3 away games. Yes,
when you've got some new coaches, a new quarterback, a lot of new pieces.
And
that's
see,
tough.
that's what I'm not bothered necessarily about where the game is played. I'm just looking at the quality of the opponent. We're playing first round draft pick quarterbacks. We're playing a lot of
quarterbacks with no experience. Yeah,
right. But 7-2 at this point, I'm not mad at it. I think it's very doable.
I said this a couple months ago on this podcast, guys. Caleb Williams needs to prove in those games that he's better than those guys that have the same, just barely any more experience than he does. He really does. He's got a better roster. He played for a team that had 7 wins that added nothing but talent. He's got to show these Drake Mays, these Jaden Daniels, these Bryce Youngs. Caleb's got to show those guys, like, this is why I was who I was before I was drafted.
Real quick with Bearsky, he says this too, and this is kind of what I was talking about with the Kyle thing when we were talking about how Kyle picked the loss, and it was his rationality, and not to call out Kyle or anything, but it's a lot of Bears fans. His rationality was the Bears have to lose some of these games. Like, I can't pick them to win this many games. Like, I think that's a phenomenon that's happening right now. He said Bearsky says when I did my initial game by game analysis at the end, I was like, wait, WTF? This won't happen, right? Some of these games are going to be trap games, right? But it's like I don't think Niners fans are looking at their schedule and saying that when they go back and look at how many wins they picked, right? I don't think Chiefs fans are looking at their schedule and saying that. And obviously the Bears aren't on that level, but they're trying to get to that level, and it's got to start somewhere. And I just think us as Bears fans, we're so used to mediocrity or below that that like we just get like this thing in our head was like, no, it can't be this good, but like sometimes it can be. And I think this might be a year where we see a pretty good stretch start to happen of some positive things happening for the Bears.
When some of these games,
we're used to extreme failure. Very well put. Yes.
Why can't it be us? Why not us?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I think we got to start approaching it with this mentality, because these odds makers are approaching it like the Bears can win 10 games pretty.
Well,
pretty
I was
easily,
just going to say the Jacksonville, the Arizona game, the games that we've kind of harped on a little bit, like
they've been back and forth. Yeah.
And it's not like the odds have them winning by 2 touchdowns. Like they have these being close football games that the Bears could pull out because they've added a shitload of talent to an offense across from a defense that finished really strong last year, right?
Absolutely.
It's just an interesting thing I'm seeing happen with Bears fans, and I mean, it's like it's but it's also weird because when I knew they were going to be bad, and I'm telling Bears fans they're going to be bad, they're telling me how good they're going to be.
Yeah, yeah. No, it always.
I'm actually looking at a team that I think is going to be good, and I'm like, okay, I think we can win 10, 11 games. And it's like, no, some of these have to be losses because
No,
like,
and that's
they're the Bears.
another thing that we have to stand like, guys. So let me tell everybody in the chat. Like, I've known Dustin for a long time. We've talked Bears for years. Darius seems to be well grounded since the day I've met him. We were the people that said the Bears suck when they suck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before the season started, we were telling people like, I don't know what you're excited about. This is going to be god awful. Let's
If
just
they
get it
win
over
3
with.
games, we'll be
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah,
It's going to suck.
let's
So
just
like,
hold on to our seats.
this is not biased by any shape or
By
form.
any
It's not
stretch.
biased.
And I just think the schedule
It
has
just lays out. It lays out for them.
it lays out. Like you said, Dustin, it
Like
lays
they
out
want to
there,
sell,
man.
like they want some viewership with
It's
Caleb
opening
Williams.
up its
Like we
flowers
actually
to the
have
Bears guys.
teams that we just match up better than, you know.
The NFL wants people watching the Bears. That's what I'm thinking right now, man.
Like, what are they trying to spoon feed the Bears? Like, we need the Bears back involved. You know?
Oh, they were picked for Hard Knocks. What a shock!
Bearsky says, I like you guys because you don't seem unrealistic. I said they suck when they suck too. It's not popular to try and preach that. I feel you guys. Thank you, Bearsky.
Yeah,
No, I mean, we just got to be
Bearsky.
rational. We got to be realistic when it comes to these things. And I have that, and it's funny, Bearsky, because I had that same moment that you were talking about. You had after you, once the schedule came out, I went through each game and I was like, holy shit, did I just pick 11 wins for the Bears? I went back and I'm like, where can I find a loss in here? This don't make no sense. And then I was like, I was like, screw that, man. I feel good about this. I think the Bears actually have a chance to win 10, 11 games and be a playoff team. And it's okay for us to be like, yeah, no, that's what that's our conviction. We see these things that the Bears are doing. They're actually doing things differently. They're actually setting up their rookie quarterback to be successful with the moves that they're making. And like, we're so not used to that we don't recognize it, but it's happening. It's happening.
Not to mention a quarterback that, by all measures, might have been successful on a team that wasn't great. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
they're
putting pieces around a guy.
Have 2 number 1 receivers and drafted Roma Dunze at number 9.
And remember, fellas, last year we won 7 games.
Caleb Williams is supposed to be a good player no matter what. That's
on top of the other improvements.
I don't like the generational term, but let's be honest, guys. By every measure, by every source, he's supposed to be the man, no matter where he goes. The fact that he went to the situation he's in just makes
the fact that he went to the freaking Chicago Bears, guys.
Yeah.
Are how lucky are we? Like, how it's like such a long time coming, and this situation seems better than ever. Bearsky says, and I feel the same way. And all I'm saying is, it's okay for us to get excited. If we get disappointed, that's okay too. That's part of sports. But like, let's have some confidence in this because it's so easy to bash them when we're going into a bad season. I mean, I at least want to do them the justice of, you know, hyping them up when I feel like we're going into a good season. That's the way I'm approaching it.
Ask yourself how you feel right now, deep down, like, because as Bears fans, we're used to the punishment. How do you feel about your GM right now? I've never felt better. I really haven't. How do you feel about the guy who's running this team? He's doing the right things, and I got down on him when he brought Eberflus.
Oh, we both did. We both did.
After all of the moves following the Eberflus thing, I was like, okay, this is. I mean, Dunze after Keenan Allen, I was like, I'm sold. This is a thing. Like, they're making this a thing, man. This is because then Caleb, it's just like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel how it's supposed to when you're a Bears fan, but that's okay, guys. It's never too good to be true.
Maybe how we're supposed to feel is about to change.
Yeah, give us something new to get used to.
Yeah,
maybe we'll be the team that's going into off season like, man, we're gonna kill it next year and the year after that, the year after that.
I mean, and it's just all I'm saying, and all to everybody watching, any Bears fans out there, is it's okay to be confident in your team. Let's just get rid of the past grievances we have. That what's done is done. Moving forward, we got something special, I think, brewing here.
We got so many reasons to move forward, man, and be optimistic.
The head coach, yes. Sorry, Darius.
But
Bearsky made the comment, I love the GM. Super concerned about the head coach and the staff, though, right? A lot of moving pieces. Talent can overcome, though. This team has talent on all 3 phases. Now, the head coach is a concern. Like I said, he's trying to call the defense all season, and the head coach is a concern because we've seen him make bad decisions at the end of games. Now those were with inferior teams, so grain of
No,
salt, I guess. But
no, you're right. We've seen him coach this team into a corner. We've seen him
yeah,
lose games.
But
for sure.
this is his first tenure as a head coach, you know, and I
Yeah,
think
and
you
you
know
gotta
you can
let him learn.
if we can expect mistakes from our rookie number one pick quarterback, you have to expect mistakes from a rookie coach or you know a coach that's in his first you know
Now
go around as a head coach.
the one thing he mentioned that I'm not concerned about, guys, is the staff that they put around Flus. If anything, that's what gives me even more confidence. I mean, he
Yeah,
mentioned the staff, adding Eric Washington, adding Shane Waldron, adding Kerry Joseph, adding who's the guy from the Panthers? I'm Brown, right? I'm blanking on his name. Thomas Brown.
yeah,
Thomas
yeah.
Brown.
Thomas
Thomas
Brown.
Brown.
Thomas Brown. Those guys are really good coaches, really good positional coaches, really good offensive, defensive coaches, and they're going to make the coaching job easier for Eberflus. And I think that's the plan. I think Poles looked at it and said, "I got to get some better." I mean, he went a whole fucking season basically without his defensive coordinator. Like, I got to give this guy some resources to help him actually focus on what he needs to focus on. And the Bears did that. They made really great staff signings on this coaching staff.
Yeah.
And I'll never defend a fourth quarter collapse because the Bears for the last 3 years have had plenty. I think they actually tied a record over 3
Yeah,
seasons.
no doubt. The record in the NFC North, the record
but
in general, not
it didn't
good.
help. It didn't help Eberflus that his quarterback played his worst football
In the fourth quarter.
whenever the game counted.
In the
man.
fourth quarter, in the last 2
Man.
minutes of a game, right? Like that's when he was at
He
his
had
worst.
the lowest. He had the lowest QB rating in the fourth quarter in 2023 or 2022, and he actually regressed to being even worse as the worst quarterback in
Yeah.
2023.
And when you need to throw the ball to secure a win at the end of a game, and that's your quarterback, I mean, that's obviously going to have an impact. So I'm going to give Flus the benefit of the doubt this year, not past this year, but I think that they've done everything they can to make this job fail-proof for him, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and he's on a hot seat still. Poles is watching.
He's either hot seat or he's coach of the year.
Yeah,
like that. Those are like it's like those are two extremes there. There's no.
And that's
real
so crazy. That's so crazy. That gap is so.
Yeah.
Poles
Scroll
ain't
said
gonna.
something funny here, guys. He said between college football 25 coming out and the Bears being good again, I can't get my nipples to soften. 7-2, Eberflus wins coach of the year. I don't give him credit enough for getting 7 wins during a chaotic coaching situation. After the Lions collapse, I thought this entire team was on a downfall, and they weren't. They stayed consistent. That's very true. It was easy to get caught up in the emotions of those games when they were happening, but like throughout the whole tenure, like it started to straighten out. You know, that defense really started to play hard for him. So he and there was a lot of crazy stuff going on with this team for him to right the ship in those circumstances. He does deserve some credit for that, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, man. Guys didn't give up on him, man. Because you can tell when guys are kind of done with that voice.
Yeah, call up Doug Peterson.
You can
tell.
He'll tell you all
stuck
about
with
that.
him. They stuck with him. That's one
You
thing
can tell when guys
take away from him. So we're saying a win with New England, right? 5.5 point favorites in Chicago.
Sure.
Now this one is interesting, Brandon, and I just want to point this out that versus Green Bay. I know you're a big Packers fan, Brando. You're always on their jock, right? Going into when we have these discussions about the NFC North. The Bears are 1-point favorites versus Green Bay in their first NFC North game.
And this is Chicago.
This is in Chicago, yes. I think that's amazing. I didn't expect that. I didn't, and I'm just giving you shit, Brandon. Obviously, you're not a Packers.
I don't dislike. I'm not against the Bears winning this game against Green Bay in Chicago, but probably because I had them losing against Arizona. If I have them winning 5 straight games again, and then running into Green Bay, I don't love those odds at all.
Okay, but like again, that's that logic that doesn't make any sense to me, Brandon. It's like you just have to pick a loss at some point, right? Like because the ball will bounce this way or that way. Like
no, because that's just
he's
the way
playing the
sports.
percentages.
And you run into you get
Real
humbled.
quick, hold on. Cliff Victoria, except for being a type 1 diabetic since I was 14, I have been lucky so far. I really relate to you, bud. My oldest son is a type 1 diabetic since he was 8 months old. Fight the good fight, man. It's good to know that you got a pretty nice long life you're living even with dealing with that, man, because I really hope for that for my son as well. Appreciate you, Cliff. You're always here. You're always doing a great job in the chat. Appreciate your viewership.
Thanks, Cliff. No, but I think there's more of a logic to it than other than they're due for a loss. That's not what I'm pitching. I think a team can be humbled when a young team is won and won and won, and then you come and you face. Because look at the teams we just said they beat. We're talking about the Cardinals. We're talking about the Commanders. We're talking about the Patriots. Then you run into a team like Green Bay, who I do think is one step ahead of Chicago, even though Chicago has some better units than Green Bay does. I think that's the game they might run into a wall. They might go in there thinking that they should win that game, and that's not a good mentality to have.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair enough. It's not just taking a loss just for a loss. At least there's some rationale behind it. And then Bearsky says the law of averages can be a reason. That's why I was saying trap games. We predict our best performance versus their best performance, and teams have bad games. Tough to predict those situations. Yeah, exactly. We can only predict based on the rosters we have going at this moment, right? And just the level of talent, and then you account for like home field versus being away, and you account for where it is in the season.
But Dustin, I want to make it. I do actually have the Bears winning this game at home. I do.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good. What do you think there is?
I have Caleb beating the Packers the first time he ever plays them. I
The
want
law,
to
the law of averages is a real thing, but you gotta think about it, fellas. Green Bay has owned us for the last about 4 or 5 years,
I'd
right?
say longer.
Well, I mean, just saying, like, just sweeping. I think we got
like as
we
long
got a
as I've
couple.
been alive.
Yeah.
We got a couple. We got one in 18, right? And I think that may have been the last one.
Rodgers lost what 2 to the Bears? 3?
Maybe, yeah. I think that sounds about right. It's an insane stat. His record against the Bears.
Most recent in 18, correct? No. Yeah, 18. We
Yeah,
got him at 18.
Yeah.
Okay. So from 18 to now is the reason why I'm picking Chicago to beat Green Bay.
So is that the homer in you? Is that the homer in you? You gonna admit that? That's just like
hey, listen.
Well, no,
FGV,
but
Cliff
Darius
says.
is pitching the law of averages on the opposite
Yeah,
side.
I mean it's a real thing. Like listen, with the improvements we made, why not now? Now, I'm not saying that we're gonna sweep Green Bay, but I like us for at home against Green Bay.
I think I agree with you, man. I think that the
I
Bears,
don't care how it goes. Field goal.
Bears need to win 3 games in this division to have a shot at the playoffs. They need to split the home and road. They need to win those ones at home at least against Detroit, against Green Bay, and against Minnesota to have a chance. Or if they beat Minnesota twice, I guess, then you could maybe see 2 losses against one. They need to go 3-3 in this division to have a shot. So I think they win this game at home. I think they split, with home and road with these NFC North teams, and they really got to defend the home court, huh?
Eberflus has coached fairly well against this Packers team. We've had leads in fourth quarters against this team. They did collapse, but like we had an 18-point lead against the Packers a year ago. I mean,
yeah.
So if the talent's gotten better and his coaching stays, he's still coaching the defense, right? So I don't see any game in this division being a landslide. I really don't.
No.
Bears playing against any one of those teams, man. I don't predict an ass whooping by any of these guys.
No.
Yeah, Bearsky. I sat at the time. It was the coldest game in Soldier Field history. Bears Packers on Monday night. I believe the Bears won with a field goal at the end of the game. It was a hell of a game. I was fortunate enough to see them win that game, to freeze my ass off and see them win. So that was a good memory for me. But those are few and far in between. So we feel you guys. I think we're picking a win here, guys, because I think the Bears at home they got to take this. They gotta show that they're here. Their first game against the NFC North of the season. They gotta show who they are, and I think that's gonna determine. This is the crux of the season, right? Like this is the fork in the road. Like they're gonna go this way or they're gonna go that way at this point. If they lose this game in bad fashion, I'm gonna feel really bad. I think this sets the tone for the how they finish this season, guys. I really do. If they lose it in a rough way, we're gonna be looking at a tough end to the season, I think. So I'm picking them to win it. Next one, we got Minnesota in Chicago. Bears are 3-point favorites, guys.
Win.
Yeah, I like that game. I like the Bears winning that game.
Yeah, I think we sweep Minnesota.
Woo! Yeah, I mean, now if JJ McCarthy's playing, I think that's going to be a lot easier. To be honest, I don't see JJ McCarthy, being a very good NFL quarterback, especially not in his rookie season. So that Minnesota team is well coached. Brandon's going to say that right now. That Minnesota team is well coached. That defense.
I like O'Connell.
Well, I
like Kevin O'Connell. I like him a lot.
I was also going to say, I don't know how much I love McCarthy playing against the Bears because that means Aaron Jones is going to do his thing all over again. I'd rather see Donald trying to throw the ball out there.
Okay.
McCarthy's going to hand the ball off. That's what's going to happen. That's what he's done his entire career.
Who's he handing it off to in Minnesota?
Aaron Jones.
Okay, and then Madison, right? Madison's still there. Do they let Madison go?
No, Aaron Jones is there.
I know Aaron Jones is there.
No, but I believe Ty Chandler's the backup.
Yeah,
okay. All right. So yeah, Aaron Jones, guys, is a Bears killer. That's the one thing that concerns me. Every time he plays the Bears, he plays really well, and he ends up beating the Bears and beating me in fantasy. I swear to God, every time he plays the Bears, it's against me in fantasy as well. So, but yeah, I don't think Minnesota and like Cliff says, they're in the middle of a mild rebuild here. They have some good receivers, they have some talent, but
yeah, they let some quality defenders.
Thank you.
They let some really quality defenders leave, man.
Yeah, but they also added some too. So, but like it's I think they're a 6-win team. I think Minnesota is a 6-win.
Would they add Greenard on the edge?
Yep, they had a Greenard out of Houston. They basically swapped Hunter and Greenard.
They drafted a kid out of Alabama,
and they drafted Dallas Turner out of Alabama, who's been a beast so far from everything I've read.
I do like Flores though.
Flores is gonna Flores. The one thing, guys,
they're coached top to bottom, man. They're coached
really well, and Brian Flores loves to bring the heat, and Caleb Williams is gonna have to play really well, really smart in a game against Minnesota. That's the one thing.
Yeah, I've said this before. The Bears are gonna have to establish the run early in those games.
I think the screen
they
game,
had a couple draft picks.
The screen game is gonna really show itself that game.
What's that?
The screen game
for the Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, beat the pressure that way with the quick pass. Yeah. So we got a win there, guys. Right now we're 9-2.
Right now the Bears are 27-1.
Let the good times roll, baby.
Bearski, we're 9-2. Cliff, we're 9-2, and we're going to Thanksgiving against Detroit. This is where it gets tough. Kevin O'Connell may outcoach Eberflus. That's a good point. Before we move on, Kevin O'Connell's a hell of a coach. We've made that point. Brian Flores is a hell of a coach. That's gonna be tougher than people are gonna give it credit for. Darius, I know you say they sweep. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough though, because Minnesota is not gonna be an easy out. And Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are gonna test our boundary corners too. We're on pace for a 14-win season, but
I just look at it.
If they had kept Cousins around, I'd say the Bears might lose 2 games against that team, man.
Their quarterbacks versus our defense, I like us
for sure, and that's a fair point. And I'm not a big fan of Darnold, and I'm not a big fan of JJ McCarthy. So I'm not scared of their quarterbacks, but there are some pieces of that team that are strong, are stronger than they're being given credit for right now. So I don't think it's an easy win. I think the Bears barely cover that. They win by a field goal, probably, guys.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson's gonna get his.
Yeah, and all right, and I said this on the show the other night too. It didn't. I was in the chat. I was in the chat with Bearski actually in tracks, but R.I.P. to Kyrie Jackson, the
Yeah,
guy drafted. I mean, he was going to be a hell of a player. I think.
yeah,
Brandon, you were high on him. Yep.
Yeah, we had done it. We had done an episode on the show where it was just pick an NFC North player drafted outside of the Bears that you really like that might surprise people.
Yeah,
This is literally the name that I said, and I read that a few days ago. I was heartbroken, man. I mean, it
yeah. It's very sad,
sucks
man.
for him and his family, man. It really sucks.
it really does. Yeah, and you just there's not much you can say or do. We root for our teams, and it's very tribal. But at the end of the day, we're people, we're human beings, and that's just a shitty thing. I'm not a fan of. I've seen some Bears fans that are just like pretty nonchalant about it, or even like
Celebratory, yeah. I've
celebratory.
seen.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
come
nah.
on, man.
No. God bless
That's a
Kyrie
kid
Jackson. God bless,
that had his
God
whole
bless the
life in
kid's
front of him.
family, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's a
man.
terrible. It's a tragedy. You don't want to see that happen, man.
Yeah. A game is one thing, man, but real life, man. Someone losing their life, man.
And he's a kid. He had a long life ahead of him.
Yeah.
He played his ass off in college to get to where he was, man. So I
Yeah,
thought
and
I
then you
thought he was a
wonder,
big body guy. I thought he was going to be a good player,
and
man.
then you wonder with the deal he signed. It's a 3-year. It was a 3-year deal, I think, 4-year deal, maybe. A fourth round pick. I think it's a 3-year deal. Like what does his family get from that? Like he was probably about to be the breadwinner for his entire family. It's like how are they affected by this? Like so many people are affected in such a negative way by this. It sucks, man. And I think he was going to be a good player, Brandon. I agree with you, and I thought that was a great call when you made it. He was a good corner out of Oregon.
Yeah.
He was going to be a good player.
Yeah, he was drafted. I thought they got him later than
He
they
was a
could.
steal. He was
Yeah,
a steal.
fourth round. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the kid.
He started out of Alabama.
Yep.
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 Transfer. Yeah.
Anyway, that sucks. Prayers to his family, and hopefully the NFL takes care of him and gives him gives his family that whole contract. Does the right thing. Hopefully Minnesota does that.
Is there anything that happens to a team in terms of compensatory? Because they used a fourth round draft pick on a kid that won't play a snap for him.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, hopefully the NFL does the right thing. Hopefully Minnesota does the right thing. That's all we can say. And a lot of times they don't. And the NFL does not do the right thing. But this has got so many eyes on it. Hopefully that influences them to pay out that whole contract and maybe give something compensatory to the Vikings so that they're more motivated to pay out that whole contract.
Yeah.
But
100%.
We'll see. But yeah, now we got on that somber note, we'll move on to Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday. And the Bears are playing at Detroit, guys. And this is now Bearski, you were wondering where these losses are coming. Here's where they're coming in my mind. At Detroit, 4-point underdogs. I don't see the Bears beating Detroit in Detroit, guys.
Yeah, this is where the fun ends. For the moment, anyway.
I was gonna say we have them at like 10-1.
Yeah,
this is where we all get heartbroken.
Yeah, I think Detroit get it off this week.
Guys, they play San Francisco after. They play Detroit and San Francisco, the two favorites in the NFC, back to back.
Detroit is such a weird team,
isn't it? Though,
because they're good. They're a quality team. I buy into Dan Campbell. I buy into everything they've put together. It's good. I don't like that they lost Reynolds and kind of didn't really supplement. I don't know if Jameson Williams is going to take that step, but the Bears seem to just play their best football against this team. Man. I don't know what it is, and it had a lot to do with Justin Fields. He averaged 130 yards rushing against this squad. So is that something Caleb can figure out? They're not real good at spying. I don't know. They play that team really hard, man. And Jared Goff's going to be then, because is that one in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
So that means Goff's going to be coming to Chicago late in the year when the weather turns.
That's bad for Goff. But Goff in Detroit on that turf
on a holiday,
he's good. He's good.
Yeah.
And I like how Bearski's like, we have Detroit's number. Should have swept them last year, but at the same time, he's like, you guys are picking too many wins. It's like we sweep Detroit, and he said we are going to sweep Minnesota. He was agreeing with Darius about that. So it's like, we're all kind of falling victim to those traps, right? Like it's like we saw how they played against Detroit last year, but I do think the one thing that's not being factored so much into Detroit as much as it should be is the amount of like they were this close to the Super Bowl. They're gonna come out on fire, guys.
Well, and I firmly believe this is a bold statement because there's little in ways of receivers in Kansas City, but I would not be shocked if Laporta has a better season than Kelsey does. That kid is really good, guys. I mean, they were okay with moving on from Hawkinson, probably knowing they were going to target Laporte in that draft.
I'm not going to give him that much credit, but
well, he was well touted. I mean, like
for sure, but you don't know how the draft's going to fall. They got him in the second round. If they wanted him that bad, they would have drafted him where they
traded up. Yeah, but he's going to have one hell of a year, guys. Especially because they did lose Reynolds. I don't think Jameson Williams is that guy. I really don't. He's a deep threat, but that's about it. But
they had such a killer draft last year, and then they came and had a pretty solid draft again this year. And that's
really
coming
good secondary players, man.
Yeah, and which they needed because they lost a couple. But I mean, like, I just think Detroit is going to come out with a real chip on their shoulder, man.
They drafted Arnold, right? From
Arnold, yeah, which I'm not as high on as a lot of people, honestly. I don't know. And I've said this before, like Nick Saban is a man coverage guy, and he played a hell of a lot of zone with those two cornerbacks last year because
where'd the other one
he
go?
did not trust them to play man.
The other one with Philadelphia.
Another thing you got to tip your hat to with Detroit is that's been different from a lot of the teams they had in the past. The physicality up front, and the fact that they're going to sit there, they're going to line up with you, turn around and run it right down.
That offensive line is phenomenal, and that's the biggest thing with them. Thank you for bringing that up because they might have the best offensive line in football, and they have maybe the best offensive lineman in football this year in Penei Sewell, and they got on the other side
one of the best edge rushers.
Yeah, and they added DJ Reader to that defensive line. They did not get worse. They got better. And Bearsky saying he expects them to take a step back rather than a step forward.
Yeah,
I expect quite the opposite. I
don't think they win I don't think they win our division. I don't think they win 12 games or anything like that. I don't expect them.
I think they win at least 12. I think they win at least 12.
Here's the thing that impressed me about the Lions. It's a team it's a history of losing. They're constantly turning over their roster. They're constantly turning over their coaching staff. Dan Campbell had a bad year as a first-year head coach. They stuck by him. And then not only did he right the ship, but he did such a good job that a guy who was getting head coach interviews turned it down. Their offensive coordinator decided to stay with this team to see if
rather than go be a head coach.
They've got something. There's something there, man. Their culture.
There's a lot of good vibes.
It's working out.
Yeah, man. And we didn't even mention Amon-Ra St. Brown, guys.
Right.
And he's top 5 receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I don't see the Bears beating them in Detroit, to be honest. And I know that they played them really well last year, but I think we're looking at a different Bears team this year, and I think we're looking at a Detroit team that is going to be on a mission and could come out of the NFC. To be quite honest, this just the one thing we can't lose sight of is this NFC North is probably the second best division in football this year. Just in terms of
Norths,
right? Both Norths are the AFC North is probably the toughest. NFC North is probably the second toughest, and you're looking at a really tough trail to get through the NFC North to get to the playoffs, and whoever comes out of it is going to be a really tough team to beat in the playoffs. And I think Detroit wins this division. So I think, and I'm a Niners fan. I rep the Niners. I watched them pull a rabbit out of their ass last year to beat the Lions, but the Lions should have won that game.
Yeah.
The Lions should have been in the Super Bowl, guys. So I just don't think we should take them lightly. I don't see how they take a step back. Then just in reference to what Bearsky said, he said he sees the Packers as the more legitimate threat. I think the Packers take a step back before the Lions, to be honest.
That's why I don't think so.
I know. But we got a loss here, guys. So we finally picked a loss after winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 games in a row.
Well, let's be honest, before we got 2 losses in a row here.
Yeah.
The Bears they're not beating that Niners team.
If Detroit is the second best team in the NFC, San Francisco is the first best team. They're playing the two best teams in the NFC back to back weeks. These are going to be a tough stretch, and it's gonna beat them down because those are going to be two physical teams for them.
Yes, sir.
And the Niners drafted another quality weapon, man. That offense is just as good as the defense. The Niners on both sides of the ball are just you just don't get a break, man.
But I
Yeah,
think it
no,
makes it. I
you
think
don't.
it makes us a better team when it's all said and done. You
For
know, we just
sure. I
get
mean,
beat up.
but it's going to be a lot of film, I think, against the Niners that they're going to have to throw out. Darius, I think a lot of it where they're like, we just got beat. Like, we just got beat. Like, the guy across from us beat us. And I think there's going to, I mean, now the one thing that'll be interesting to watch in that game, guys, is their receivers. And if Ayuk stays, which I think he will, you got Debo. But I know he's pushing, he's doing everything he can to get out. But you got Debo, you got Ayuk, and you got Pearsall going against Jalen, Tyreek, and Kyler Gordon. Those are going to be some really good matchups.
Well, you got to mention Kittle against our linebackers and
There you go.
safeties.
Yep.
And you
That's another
also
interesting
The
matchup.
matchup that should
and,
terrify you is Bosa against anybody, anytime, any day
and
of the
it's
week.
crazy. The
Bosa is going to
last
make
person that we're
mincemeat out
going to
of whoever he plays
mention
against.
is Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
The Niners are a very, very good team, and the Bears
Very
are
well
not
put
going to
together,
have a
man.
chance to beat them. The Bears
Very
aren't
well
going to have
put
a chance to
together.
beat them. They're both on the road. They're at Detroit,
Yeah.
then they're at San Fran.
And those two losses are nothing to hang your head on, man.
No. So right now we have 4 losses for the Bears guys, and then we have at Minnesota.
Win.
That's a tough one for me. I think
Yeah, I don't
I think they
I
split.
like the coaching
The
staff too
division.
much. I don't. They're too well coached.
And towards
I,
the end of the season, if the Bears are have this many wins and the Vikings are, figuring their stuff out, they're starting to get players more, figure out their players and figure out their scheme a little more. Like as they're in this mild rebuild, as Cliff put it, like.
well, this is the defensive coordinator I dislike the most for a rookie quarterback. He scares the hell out of me because he doesn't just bring pressure again and again and again, but he did a really good job. And I do think that Caleb Williams is a smarter guy than Justin Fields, but he does a really good job at just confusing the hell out of you, man. Like,
Yeah.
he takes advantage of young quarterbacks. He absolutely does that.
I'm picking a loss. At Minnesota this time of year. I just think I think it's going to be tough for the Bears to win 4 games in their division. Now if they beat both against the Vikings, now they lose both to the Lions. That's the way I look at that, and then they split.
Well, you're
with the
scaring the
Packers.
crap out of me, man. You gave us the fork in the road speech. You like they beat the Packers, and then they just lose 3 straight. It's like, oh
Well,
God.
but here's the thing: we beat the Packers. The Bears
Yeah,
beat the Packers in our scenario, so now
yeah,
they
that'll
just
give
ran
them.
to a buzzsaw, man. You go on the road to Detroit and then on the road to San Fran. Like there aren't many teams that are going to pull a win out of either of those games this year.
No, I like the loss in Minnesota too, Dustin. Which has them at what 9-5? Is what are we? Is that where
Yeah.
we're at 9 and
Yes,
5?
sir. Yep.
Okay, that sounds reasonable, right? Sparsky. That's that's the law of what averages.
I'm
We are
taking
undefeated at Levi since they went to Santa Clara.
that win, man. I just think we're just a better team than Minnesota. They have great coaching over there. I agree with you, Brandon. With I just think the players on the field are just better.
The Bears just lost 3 in a row, and as Bearsky says, they're collapsing. I'm sorry, Darius, you're outvoted on this one. We're taking the loss here. We're taking the L, but it's going to get better because we're going back to Chicago after a 3-game road stint. That's going to hurt us a little bit, but like you said, it's going to make us better, Darius. You said we're going to deal with these teams that are really well coached and have really great players, and we're going to take some learning out of it. We're going to bring it back home, and we're going to beat the Detroit. Where the Detroit. We're still getting a point against Detroit. We're still underdogs in Chicago, but it's just a point. And like I said, I don't think the Bears are going to lose both to Detroit. I think they win this one at home. I think Caleb has a great game, and I think the Bears linebackers really take Laporta out of this game.
This is a game I've had the Bears winning no matter how many times I've looked at the schedule, no matter how many ways. I do believe the Packers are a better team than the Lions next year. I think they win the division. I have the Bears absolutely beating the Lions at home.
Mm-hmm. Especially if it's 30 degrees, under 30 degrees.
Yeah, golf is off. Let's not. We mentioned this before. Golf at home versus golf on the road is like Jekyll and Hyde. Golf is not going to play well in Chicago in that weather. And it's just they're going to need a hell of a game from their defense to pull that out. And I just think at this point, Caleb's ready to unleash it on some people.
Yeah, three losses in a row, man.
Yeah, got to get one. I was really, I mean, I have a lot of respect for the Lions. If you guys can't tell with how I talk about them, like I said, I've watched them play all season. And through those playoffs, they played some tough teams and some really tough games, and they found a way to win them all, except for that last.
They had a great season last year.
Eberflus does a really good job at confusing Goff. He is. I mean, I think Goff threw, what was it, 5 interceptions against the Bears alone last year?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
I don't have the number off the top of my head.
You remember Goff in 2018 when they came to Chicago, and
that's what Bearski's talking about right here. You and Bearski talking about the same game, yep.
Yeah, like Goff is just bad in the cold.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. He's a fair weather guy. And
like Dustin said too, just exclude the weather. His away stats were egregious last year.
Yeah,
my brother shared it with us. I couldn't have. He threw like 4 touchdowns away. I was like, "What the hell is this team winning football games?" His away stats were really bad, man.
So I think it's a win, but I just thought it was, like I said, I have a lot of respect for Detroit, and I think a lot of national people do too. And for the Bears to only be 1-point underdogs in this game, I thought that was kind of impressive. That stood out to me, like that they weren't 2.5-point underdogs in this game. Even though the home field swings those things, I just thought that Detroit is that good of a team. But the Bears are right there with them in this spread. So I thought that was interesting.
All right, so we have them at 10-5 after a win.
And now we have Seattle, Waldron's revenge game. Bears are 3.5-point favorites. Bears are 3.5-point favorites. It's in Chicago. We're 10-5, trying to finish out the season strong.
Yeah, I don't love Seattle this year. I don't. I don't think losing Pete Carroll's a good thing, no matter how you spin it. And you basically stayed the same in terms of roster. So, you've made a couple of draft picks, but I don't see how the team gets better. I don't. Pete Carroll's a really good coach, man. He's still in the organization, but
But what's the guy, the defensive coordinator from the Ravens that's now their head coach? What's his name?
Naga.
Why am I blanking on his name? Nobody's got this for me, huh? He's a good coach. He's a good defensive coach. That team is gonna. You got me, Bearski. Anybody got
Mike McDonald?
Mike McDonald. Thank you. Mike McDonald. Thank you, Brandon.
Didn't he have a flood?
He's a good coach. He was a hell of a defensive coordinator for the Ravens, and I think they'll play tough for him. But yeah, I don't know if they have the talent to win a lot of games.
No, I didn't love them last year, and they had a lot of injuries, man. But I also think they just kind of showed their true colors. I don't think they're that talented. I really don't. I don't love the way they've drafted over the last few years. I don't love Geno Smith. I don't buy into Geno Smith especially without Waldron. I don't see if I don't. Do you guys think that improves?
I mean,
do we think he's benched at some juncture of next year?
I like Sam Howell. Sam Howell.
He's got somebody's breathing over his shoulder. I mean,
I like Sam Howell.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he's got that. It's not. There's no comfort anymore. Like, he's just the guy.
Well, they still have, and Matt Bearski points out, they still got Metcalf, still got Lockett, and they still got JSN.
Oh, Lockett.
I got the Bears losing that one, fellas.
Lockett is.
You got the Bears losing to Seattle in Chicago, Darius?
I got the Bears losing that one.
Why?
Well, I actually like Seattle's defense. I like the secondary they got over there. I mean, we have.
Witherspoon and who's the other guy they drafted the year before him who's a beast? I'm blanking.
Oh yeah, I wanted us to draft him so
They
bad.
have
I
two
don't.
really good cornerbacks for sure, and they just drafted Byron Murphy out of
Yeah,
Texas in the
yeah.
first
Yeah,
round
but
this year. They got a tough defense for
I
sure,
don't. I feel like
and a defensive coordinator for a head coach now who's a
I
badass. So
I feel like they lost the games they lost last year because they couldn't shoot out. Like their defense didn't do a great job last year in regards to points per game. They were somewhere near the bottom. Like
yeah, for sure, that's going to change this year. That's going to change this year for that team. I mean, they're going to be better. They're going to be more respectable on
I mean,
defense.
they had that game with Detroit in overtime where they lost like 38 to like they allowed a lot of points in a lot of games, man.
Yeah.
It would
I think that's gonna be a tough game for Caleb.
it would take some.
That's a fair point, Darius. I mean, he's got a that's a hell of a secondary he's going to be throwing against.
It would
Now
take some
they
pretty
don't really have
substantial.
who are their safeties. I mean, their safeties aren't really like they could benefit from a guy like Justin Simmons, you know,
Yeah,
who's still out there on the market, who's still a good player. Like they could really use a guy like that. But I would see the Bears winning this game, guys. Darius, I think I got to disagree with you. Just in Chicago, they're 3.5 point favorites. Seattle is going in the opposite. Like they're kind of taking a step back, I think, in terms of
I mean
their.
they still got some of the same players on offense. Would you say Gino loses his job? Huh? You think so?
I think Sam Howell. I think Sam
I
Howell ends
I
up playing quarterback for them this year. Yeah.
I think the Seahawks finish last in that division, if not slightly above Arizona.
Yeah, maybe a game ahead of Arizona. Maybe Arizona wins 5 or 6. They win 6 or 7. Yeah,
They
that's what I'm
lose.
thinking.
They lose two to the Niners. They lose two to the Rams. I don't love that Seattle team coming in this year. I think they're near the bottom.
Bearski makes a
And
good point here, Brando. You were saying, so not believing in Seattle. You were more mentioning the points per game that they allowed.
Allowed, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and just doesn't that say something about Shane Waldron in terms of, like you had mentioned earlier, they were dealing with a lot of offensive line issues in terms of their offense that really set them
well,
up for failure. They had no run game.
and they got into some shootouts, guys. They took Detroit to an overtime where the Seahawks scored like 34 points. They lost like 34 to 38. That's what I was saying though. Is like if they couldn't score more than it's like it was always
Yeah, yeah.
the defense couldn't keep them in a game. It felt like.
The Bears are going to win this game in my mind. I think that's the game that they have to win just to secure the playoffs. I think they're going to go into it knowing that, and I mean, then maybe they're playing at Green Bay for a chance at the division. Depending on what Detroit does. I don't think so, but I guess it's a possibility, right? Like if the Bears are 11-5 going to Green Bay, there's a chance that game means an awful lot, or there's a chance that it means nothing. They both could be
I was just
playoff
about
teams.
to say, if Bears
Yeah.
11-5 going in there, I think that game means nothing. I think we got the division wrapped up because I don't
It
think
might decide.
I think 12 wins this division, Darius. I don't think
You think
11
so?
wins this division. Yeah.
It might decide, where you fall in the playoffs, which would be pretty important to the Bears.
Yeah, for sure. Now
If
this is crazy, man, because I had the Bears. Like, it's just crazy how these odds and I had the Bears with 10 wins. I had the Bears at 10-7. I think I had the Lions at 12-5, and the Packers at 9 and. Oh no, I had the Bears at 11-6. I had the Packers at 10-7. I had the Lions at 12-5. I got yeah. But I mean, right now we got the Bears with 11 wins going to Green Bay, and I guess this still works out the same way because I don't see the Bears beating Green Bay in Green Bay, guys. And it could be an important game, Darius. Like you said, it could be if Detroit is winning those games and wins 12 games. Like this game is just deciding playoff position, like you're saying, Brandon. And maybe that's not worth getting injured going into the playoffs for.
Yeah, I was going to say this game might also be a game where you don't see full teams at full strength.
Yeah, you think you're gonna see a lot of players resting in those games?
If the Bears had secured themselves a playoff spot, I wouldn't hate Caleb sitting. I don't know though. It hasn't proven real.
Yeah, I was
success
about to
to
say it.
sit guys before the last game, like on the last game of the year. That doesn't really. Although I think the Chiefs did it the year they won Mahomes' first Super Bowl, didn't they?
I'm sorry, what?
Well, no, I think
Did the Chiefs?
Mahomes
Did,
rookie year. Remember, he ended up playing at the end of the year.
He
right,
played
his
one
rookie year.
game. He played
His
Yeah,
that.
first year as a
Yeah, when they were
starter,
in the
though.
playoffs with Alex Smith. Yeah.
His first year as a starter, though, didn't they? Did the Chiefs sit their starters the
it's
last year?
quite possible, man. You know, Andy Reid, he
Well,
does
I'm
that.
asking because he had like 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. So I was wondering, did he
Yeah.
play all those games or did he miss a game at the end of that year? Because that's pretty remarkable if he had those statistics while being sad. But yeah, I don't. It's never shown success to sit guys before the playoffs.
Yeah, you want to kind of be in a good rhythm. You want to, and it's a divisional game, and it's in Green Bay, and you have a chance to sweep the Packers. So it's like, I don't, I don't think you rest your guys for that game, even if you have the playoffs locked up, because you
Yeah,
got a chance to beat the Packers.
I think you going there just because of all the years of getting whooped by them. I think you just, they deserve it.
Well, and
You know?
if you beat them, you play them the last game of the season, you beat them, and then you play them in the playoffs. Yeah, if you beat them twice and
I
you play
mean,
them the last game of the season,
It's
the
tough to
way
beat
I'm thinking
anybody
about
three
it,
times.
we got three NFC North teams in the NFC playoffs. So they're two of those teams are going to play each other in the
yeah,
first round and
In
the
my
wild card.
mind, this game is to bury them jokers, man. This
it
game is to
it
bury
certainly wouldn't make the Packers feel good about themselves.
No, no.
them.
If you beat them going into the playoffs and then you turn around and play them in the wild card after you swept them in the regular season, that's
Yeah, and if your rookie quarterback shows out against the guy that they're already calling the next Favre Rodgers piece out of it, it would definitely
what do we?
shock Packers Nation.
Yeah, what do we think about who wins this game, guys? Like I said, Bears are 3-point underdogs.
I'm gonna throw them a loss. I am,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
and I'm
It'll
okay
be a
with that.
fun game though. It'll be a fun game
I'm
if
okay,
this goes the way we projected it.
because what do we have here? 11-6.
Then we finish at 11-6.
Mm-hmm.
We finished
Yeah,
with a loss to the Packers. We started out. I mean, we started out super hot. Winning 7 games in a row. And Bearski's like, "What are you guys doing?" But it leveled out. We played some good teams, but at the begin, that schedule at the beginning, guys, is soft. And everyone says it's going to take some time for the Bears to get into their rhythm or for Caleb to get going. I don't think the Bears have that time because if they don't get those wins early, guys, against these soft teams. Honestly, they're just not. A lot of them aren't good teams that they're playing.
no,
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
but
not going to find them at the
they
end of
gave
the season. It gets rougher. It
they gave
doesn't get easier.
Caleb the Titans as his very first game as an NFL quarterback. I'll take it, and I don't. I mean, do we think that Will Levis is like a seasoned? Like, I don't, like these two
No.
rookies playing each other, man.
I mean, you can season a fucking shitty steak. It's still a shitty steak.
It's poorly. He's a poor. We'll call Will Levis a poorly seasoned quarterback.
I don't know, man. I think the Bears have a big opportunity in front of them to start this season. The Houston game that second week, that's going to be a tough one, and I don't see them pulling it out. But I think, like you were saying, Darius, with that Detroit game and that San Fran game, that's a good game for them to take some good stuff out of to get some stuff on film against a really competitive team because they're gonna be in competitive games towards the end of this season, and they got to get themselves acclimated to it quickly. I think if they're gonna make a playoff push.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and Caleb,
it's gonna be some games, man, where you just gonna get your ass kicked,
and
man.
Caleb responds really well, man. Sorry to cut you off there, but
No, but
everybody
you're
referenced
right.
everybody references the Notre Dame game, and I think that was one of the most important games in Caleb Williams' career. I really do. I don't know if you guys watched that game. It's the game that everybody's going to reference when they talk about Caleb
The
Williams.
Notre Dame game, yeah.
But
He played a bad half.
and he played a bad football game. But what you did see him do, and I think it was Dustin who sent me the article, but the guy who broke down every single game of Caleb Williams, and he said he shares Twitter clips during this article he's writing, and half of the things that Caleb Williams does well are from that Notre Dame game because he was getting so much pressure up the middle that
Mhm.
there was no hero ball this time. Because anytime he tried that, it went poorly. He had to start getting rid of the ball quickly and making his reads and progressions quickly. And that's where we saw Justin Fields kind of like, I mean, that's where things got bad to worse. But Caleb played some of his best football in that Notre Dame game. People are going to say you're saying that because you're a Bears fan. If you go back and watch that game, some of
Yeah,
the
you
best
gotta
things
watch
he
it.
did as a pro quarterback, from a player transitioning to the pros, some of the best things he did were in that Notre Dame game.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
to me, he just played a bad half. He played a bad half of football,
Yeah, the
and
first half
they
was
couldn't
rough.
come back from it.
yeah, and you learn a lot from a player when they fail. And you learn a lot about quarterbacks, especially if they're going to be good, and when you see how they fail, because it's not always going to go well. And when you get down on yourself, and when you're afraid to make that pass the next
Yep.
time when you need to because of
Yeah.
that mistake you made the last time, and we've discussed this, guys. It's just that's not a good mental space for your quarterback to be in. Caleb has I've never seen Caleb get afraid to go out there and make the next throw. I mean,
Wasn't it Michael Jordan that said a player who's afraid to fail can never succeed, right?
yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Like Caleb has that mentality, so that's what makes this so exciting. That's what makes this so fun. And we just went through this whole schedule, guys, and we picked 11-6. We got the Bears in the playoffs. I hope you guys enjoyed it because I thought this would be a lot of fun. Did you guys have fun doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Especially with
Hopefully.
the outcome. With the outcome we came up with.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now and
So,
again, we're just speculating here and we're just throwing our 2 cents out there, but
Yeah.
I think there's a very real possibility that this record comes to fruition, guys, right?
Yeah, like we're not going around here saying they're gonna go 17-0. You know what I mean? 15-2 and all that.
I think we just went 11-6 with this show. Like took a couple L's along the way, but we had some good wins as well. I want to shout out Bridges Scoreboard, Northwest Indiana Chicago Sports Headquarters. Those guys are great. Chicagoland's most delicious sports dining experience over at River Street at 102 River Street in Elgin. TC's, these are all of our great sponsors, guys. TC's World of Wonders. Get yourself an awesome jersey there. I know a couple of our guys with Chicago Sports Podcast just got some sense of them. They're very happy with them. Great price, great quality. This is Chicago Sports Podcast brought to you as well by Serendipity Ice Cream. I just want to make sure we get some of our sponsors in here because we have not gotten to them. We had Cliff is already thinking 11-6. LOL. Ant Mass. We got Bearski was great. Illinois Jones just jumped in, said Caleb's going to be 100 to start the season. We're so used to seeing average quarterbacks. We aren't ready for what is about to happen. We Stockton 209 Bravo has been great. You guys have been killing in the chat. Please hit the like and subscribe. Please tell a friend. Please share it because we just love talking Bears. Like I just been talking Bears with people, at work, people everywhere, and everyone's super excited, guys. So it's just fun when the Bears are good. It's fun to be in the city of Chicago. I know Darius, you're in the ATL, right?
Yes, sir.
But it's just fun to be a Bears fan when the Bears are good,
Yeah,
guys.
man.
It's fun to talk this stuff through and see how we're feeling because, like I said earlier, and like Brandon said, when it's going to be shitty, we know it's going to be shitty, and we
Yeah.
call it out too. We call it out too. We're not on here just homering it up for you guys. Hopefully we get we're gonna have some ups and downs with this team. That's gonna happen, but hopefully the end result is a team that's been well prepared for the playoffs and has a chance to make some noise come January.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're a team coming out of the storm, man. Because it's been pretty bad for the last couple of years. But I think we're coming out of that storm, and we're on the incline, man. I believe
Guys, I
it.
just want to put some more chat stuff out here because the chat is. I mean, honestly, this is the best chat that I've seen. You guys are freaking killing it. Brandon, we've seen a lot of chats, right? Like Bears, Ant-Mass,
No,
you're the
this one's
shit.
been
On
legendary.
fire the whole time. Trax was in here killing it earlier too, right? Ant-Mass, you're the shit. Cliff Victoria, you too. Dedicated fans. Cliff Victoria, man, thank you. People like you are what makes these channels go. Yeah, no, we don't do this shit without you guys, and it don't make no sense because like if y'all ain't watching, we might as well just talk on the phone. And me and Brandon do that. Stockton 209 Bravo, man. Thanks for the Bears combo during my second job. That's what we do this for, right? Like the guys that are just looking for something to get them through. And if you're in here watching while you're at your second job, we appreciate the hell out of you. Cliff says we're all Bear fans. Illinois Jones says it's all about building the lines from here. I want the biggest, nastiest brawlers fighting on both sides. Just all the content y'all guys help us with, you know, as we go through the show. We just went for 2.5 hours, and if it didn't feel like it, you know, it's been a great time. Brandon and shit. I wanted to talk to Mar, you know. I wanted to wish him a farewell. He's gone. You know, the Bulls are the Bulls. We know they're not going to be good this year, but just want to say that DeMar was a lot of fun to watch. Every Bulls game, he brought it, man. He played hurt. He played hard. He hit a lot of game-winning shots that man. I remember watching that game against the Pacers. I was at work, and he hit that like basically half court three. Oh my God, I was jumping around at work like a wild person, and everybody's looking at me like I was insane, you know. But like, he brought those experiences and to us as fans, and just want to thank him for that, man. He was a hell of a player, hell of a leader, a lot of fun.
Professional, man.
King of the fourth, man.
He was close to winning that clutch player this year, but just farewell to DeMar, guys. Anything from you guys before we get out of here?
Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the whole CSP. Shout out to Kornishovich and company for making the right decisions this time.
Yeah.
Even though it's not gonna, you know, it's one of them things where we're gonna, you know,
hurt. It's gonna be painful.
Less is more, but you know, the race to Cooper flag is on, man. Or Ace Bailey, either one.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, guys. Thanks to people in the chat. Always good to do a show with you, Darius. Always a blast to do a show with you, Dustin. Doing a good job hosting, and yeah, had fun, guys.
Thanks so much. What's that?
I love the Bears.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we got a lot. Let's go Bears right here. Bear down from Illinois Jones. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate all the chat, all the help you guys gave us throughout the show and moving along the conversation. I'm getting tired. My eyes are heavy. Yep, everybody. Hopefully you guys have a great day tomorrow. Hopefully we get some good news about the Bears with maybe they do make a signing, you know, here in the coming days, because there are still some interesting people out there. So we'll keep our ears to that. We got a show on Wednesday, we got a show on Thursday, we got a show on Friday, guys. So come back and check us out. Jump in the chat, give them the energy and effort you were giving us tonight, because you guys were fucking great. Thank you so much. Chicago Sports Podcast. Bear down, everybody.
Bear down, man.
All right, have a great night.